Everyone is in, Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Duffy, as clerk, I'm going to ask you to share control of this Zoom meeting with me. Under New Jersey law, NJSA 4860-5C, I chair meetings, and in order to chair meetings, if this was a live meeting, I would have a gavel and control of the room. I am asking you to do the same right now virtually. Will you do so, yes or no?
Mr. Marinello, would you please provide an opinion?
It's the same opinion I've given you before. The resolution passed at the last meeting provides that the clerk has control of the Zoom meeting.
Okay, so that's a political opinion, not a legal opinion. I want to do the
Actually, a
borough.
resolution. You could read it. It
I
says it
want
right.
to, you're violating New Jersey law right now by not sharing
Not
control.
violating anything.
Let me finish. You don't have the floor. What we'll do is we'll proceed under my protest because I want to get the borough's business done. However, just as a caution to the council and to the residents, this meeting may be invalidated in the future because of the violations by our clerk. Okay, with that said, I call this meeting to order of the Mayor and Council of Borough of Englewood Cliffs. It's a regular meeting of September 9th, 2020. It's approximately 8:40 p.m. And it's a virtual meeting. I am at the caucus room at the police station, which is also next to our council chambers. The clerk is next door in the council chamber itself. I see our council members. I see Councilman Wu on video. I see Councilman Ramon on video. I don't see council people O, Sabari, or Aversa. And I see Councilman Song on video, although I just see the top of his head and the Golden Gate Bridge behind him.
Well, I'm here.
You're
I'm
here,
here
but
also.
you're here, but you're not on video. So I think
Not required to be on.
it's bad form for the public not to be able to see you. For whatever reason you choose to do this. You were elected to lead this town and to be seen by our residents.
That would be your opinion. Thank you.
With that said, I would like to start the meeting as we always start with the flag salute. So I'm going to rise. There's a flag behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to have a moment of silence for former resident Steve Isman and for Penny Rizzuli's sister-in-law, Esposia Rizzuli, a great friend of Englewood Cliffs. I also want to take this opportunity. I'm sorry, let's just have the moment of silence. Thank you. I also want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that on Friday, September 11th, we will be having our annual September 11th commemoration ceremony at the firehouse, outdoors, socially distanced, everybody wearing face masks. It begins at 8:30 a.m. I know it's later on in our agenda, but I just wanted to call it out to everyone's attention now so you know about it. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Kranjak,
Here.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
Here.
Sabari,
Here.
O,
Here,
Sung,
Here.
Aversa,
Here.
Wu,
Here.
Borough Attorney,
Here.
and Municipal Clerk. Everyone's present, Mayor.
The Open Public Meetings Act statement needs to be read now, Ms. Duffy.
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
I just want to also give the public and the council our COVID-19 update. In total, we have had 72 COVID cases in Englewood Cliffs. We currently have 3 active cases, with the last positive test result on August 29th. And unfortunately and sadly, we've had 5 deaths in town of residents. We are still looking for volunteers to help seniors with groceries. Ms. Duffy, were you able to find anyone today for the one
Yes.
resident? Thank you. Also want to thank a Bergen County High School student by the name of Angela Sandev, who donated face masks to the town. She and her group did so, I believe, yesterday or today. It's also with great pleasure and happiness that I want to announce the 100th birthday yesterday of Patience Zabala. She's a resident in town, and I stopped by with a bouquet of flowers and a proclamation for her. And I'd like to just read the proclamation so you could have an understanding of who Patience Zabala is. She turned 100 years old yesterday, as I mentioned. Whereas, here's the proclamation. Whereas I, the mayor of the borough of Englewood Cliffs, honor and acknowledge the 100th birthday of Englewood Cliffs resident, Patience Zabala, who was born on September 8th, 1920, in the Philippines. Whereas Patience emigrated to the United States of America in 1955. Whereas Patience did her graduate studies at Teachers College of Columbia University. She has 2 master's degrees in education and English, and she has a doctorate in philosophy. Whereas Patience also attended Universidad de Madrid in Spain, whereas Patience speaks 5 languages. Patience taught public school and parochial school in New York City before becoming a college professor. And as I mentioned, Patience celebrated her 100th birthday on September 8th, 2020. And it is a great honor to acknowledge the 100th birthday of Patience Zabala by documenting this very impressive occasion. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Borough of Englewood Cliffs Mayor and Council express their congratulations and best wishes to Patience Zabala. Be it further resolved that I, the mayor, in honoring Patience Zabala, also wish her daughter and Englewood Cliffs resident, Maria Coburn, good health and happiness for many years to come. So that's a great accomplishment, great event. Patience has seen a lot of history unfold, and she started her life far from America and lived the American dream by being here. I want to also mention next our borough charity project, which is the Office of Concerned Food Pantry. If you're unable to drop non-perishable food items off at the police station, what you could also do is you go on their website and donate. They make sure they provide, they use whatever donations, money or food to support the needy families of the area. And just to put things in perspective for you, there's 1,000 families that were served in the last month by the Office of Concerned Food Pantry. You know, we all argue and we all fight here often, but none of us go to bed hungry. So you could be part of fixing all this for other people who do go to bed hungry. Let's see, I just wanted to take a few minutes to clarify a few things, and if you permit me, I'll do so now. I take this opportunity to speak about leadership. In particular, I share with you what drives my leadership. First, everything I do as your mayor is to follow the rule of law and to correct mistakes if and when made, regardless of reason, regardless of who I relied on. Second, I lead with consistency. You never have to wonder where I will come out on an issue. I follow the rule of law. I promote full transparency, even when it's uncomfortable for other people. I correct errors when made, and I will not be bullied by any news organization, whether fake or real. The line has recently been blurred. I will defend this great nation and its Constitution to my death. We have had 2 protests and 1 counter protest in town this summer. The Englewood Cliffs Police Department did a great job organizing and keeping everyone safe, even when one of the groups is an anti-police group. They and their brother and sister police officers throughout the country should have all our respect for putting up with the disrespect that has shown to them by other mayors and other governors. Last week, I established new policies for the borough to follow so that a mistake is never made again with respect to billing police overtime for protests and rallies. When the matter initially arose, I was assured by the borough administrator that the borough bills private groups for police overtime. There exists a very clear email chain with the borough administrator and her draft of the bill letter.
Mayor, all due respect, you're lying.
She never objected to it.
Mayor, with all due respect, you're lying about my performance and a conversation that
You
never
could let me
happened.
finish and you could have the floor, but you're interrupting me. And there's an email chain, as I mentioned, so anybody
No,
could read it.
it's a twisted
Let me
email
finish.
chain that you're
No, it's
making
not.
it
It's
work
very
towards
clear.
you.
She never objected to it. This exchange followed phone calls. with her
Mario,
asking
good
her to-
leadership is
Let me
trying-
finish. Let me
Mayor,
finish.
Mayor,
You
you're
could have
talking
the
about
floor.
my
and that's
performance. I
responsibility
wasn't
for your
right, and it's a
actions.
violation
Let
of
me
my
finish.
rights.
You're interrupting me. That's rude. This exchange followed phone calls with
Well, the
her
lying
asking
is
her to
rude
make
too,
sure
Mario.
this was proper thing to do. She confirmed that it was, but it turns out that it wasn't.
No.
I rescinded the bill and I
Mayor,
Mayor,
apologize.
I never told
And
you
I-
to bail
let
the
me finish.
resident.
Let me finish. You're the one who mailed it. And I rescinded
You're the one
bill.
that asked me to mail it. In fact, towards the end
But
of
I
the day,
didn't
you
get
asked
it.
me, did
You
you
let-
email it?
Let me finish, please. And then you can say all you want.
You're just deflecting. You just want to blame somebody else.
When the
for your-
matter initially arose, I was assured by the borough administrator that every private group gets billed for police overtime.
Oh,
Mayor, you're an attorney.
We are
You're an
tonight,
attorney, and we're talking about a
finish.
protest.
let me finish.
It's a
Tonight,
disgusting
we are
apology.
amending the ordinance that led to the bill. I
Disgusting
believe the
apology,
council,
oh no.
I believe the council, since they and the administrator put it on the agenda with me, want to make sure
That-
no one can ever
that-
claim that we are,
That is not
that we
true.
are seemingly
We in
limiting
no way
free speech
back you,
or
Mario.
peaceful
In
assembly.
no way. This was
I
you
expect
and
the
you
amendment
alone,
will pass.
and you're
While it
ignorant.
is good,
you're
let me finish,
racist.
please, and you can have the floor. It's very rude, and I know why you're not giving me Zoom control, because you want to interrupt me, but I'm going to get through this.
I'm not speaking.
While it is good to focus on issues and resolve them, it would also have been good for State Senate Leader Loretta Weinberg, Assemblywoman Valerie Huddle, and Assemblyman Gordon Johnson to have joined me in 2018 and 2019 in condemning the racism being tolerated by our former police chief.
There
I
was no.
asked each one of them to condemn racism at a public meeting.
Deflection.
It's on the video.
Why
and
don't
they
you
wouldn't
just
do it.
deal with the
Instead, they
issues
walked
at
out.
hand, Mayor?
Mario, I
Let
hope the
me finish.
resident is so
Listen, you
disappointed
need
in
to
that
mute anyone
sick
who's interrupting
apology.
right now.
The fact that you would
Instead, they
say
walked
that
out.
you're
They were so
sorry
quick to
that
join in
someone
the
else
media
made a
parade.
mistake is
They were
disgusting.
so quick to join in the media parade and attacking me recently, but they were nowhere to be found when I was dealing with our former police chief, whose sister, by the way, is the head of the local Democratic Party. Do you see a connection there?
Okay,
Loretta,
Mario,
no standard is
Mario.
better than double standard.
Mario,
let's deal
That's
While
your
with
I
apology,
corrected my
Mario?
mistake, you all just keep making mistakes.
That's your
Mario.
apology.
When the
you don't
when
sound
Bergen County
sorry
prosecutor,
today.
Let
You
me-
you don't sound sorry.
Listen,
You
you need to finish.
apologize to the protest
finish.
organizer for your mistake, but tonight you do not sound
Okay, well,
sorry.
when he was Bergen County prosecutor, Gerbir Graywall was asked to investigate our former police chief. He came back to me and said there was no problem.
Mario,
No,
that's the
Graywall's
point.
investigation
you, it's
also
not about
was
anybody
finding
else.
120 audio recordings made by our former police chief,
Oh, my
proving
Lord.
corruption and proving me right. Nice going, Attorney General Graywall. Now that our affordable housing obligations have been linked with the recent protests, I'll use this opportunity to give you some
It's
facts
irrelevant.
that you won't read about it in any of the media. I
Irrelevant.
have had a series of very productive calls and emails over the last week with the president of the Bergen County NAACP, Mr. Jeffrey
Really? I've
Carter.
spoken with him. I don't know of those.
We welcomed the NAACP to town last Friday. We plan to meet very soon, hopefully this
Where
coming
were
week,
you at the
to
protest?
review
Mayor?
my 100% affordable housing plan, which the Democrat council majority rejected in 2019. Mr. Carter now has a copy of that plan, and I asked him to support, I asked for his support for our plan
I've spoken with
and for
Mr.
his
Carter. and
constituents,
he's not in
which is
support of
100%
this plan
affordable
because it
housing.
doesn't work.
Here's our affordable housing timeline. No previous administration prior to mine has built or even planned a single affordable housing unit in Englewood Cliffs. We had 42 years of Mayor Parisi and Mayor Parisi, father and son Democrats, prior to 2016 when I became mayor. I always publicly stated that we would comply with the law by building 100% affordable housing project.
But yet you say
2018, my administration purchased land, and as part of a plan to build an equivalent of 77 affordable units, the plan could have been expanded to satisfy the number that we had expected the judge would provide to us in a timely fashion, which she did not do. This is New Jersey after all. Now that we have the number, we needed to have it to be refashioned into a fair number, and then we would have had satisfied that as well. Then in January 2019, the new Democrat council majority, O. Sabari versus Song and E. Park, stopped that process and tried to derail my administration's plan so they could allow developers to develop over 2,000 market rate units in a town where we currently have only approximately 1,800 residential units. This is not a racial issue, as Englewood Cliffs is approximately 50% minority of all different backgrounds. We are a diverse community. It is an issue of money. Under my 100% affordable housing plan, no one makes money. But under the Democrat plan, developers and their friends make lots of money, several $100 million by my estimate. Again, under Democratic control for 40 plus years, Englewood Cliffs refused to provide any affordable housing. Now, to make up for their failure, the local Democrats tried to cut a secret settlement behind the backs of residents to allow their developer friends to build thousands of new units. Together, we caught them red-handed. And the voters in town responded by delivering sweeping Republican victories last year. I've also said that I do not believe the New Jersey affordable housing laws are fair to anyone except to developers, but that since it is the law, I would find a way to comply on our terms under home rule. So it's a lie when our Democrats on council tell you that we have no plan. It's injustice when a judge blocks their ability to solve for our own affordable housing obligations. And it's corruption when our Democrats on council insist on destroying our town with a deal with the developer rather than supporting a 100% affordable housing project. It's disingenuous for state elected officials and media to attack Englewood Cliffs after 40 years of letting Democrat mayors Parisi and Parisi do nothing. I did something, and I will do more to solve our problem. Speaking
You sure
of
did. You did a
Sabari,
great
many
job
of
with
you,
Emily Gill.
speaking
and the
of
rest
Debbie
them. Very
Sabari,
good.
many of you received an email recently from Councilwoman Sabari regarding her criminal conviction on federal tax evasion charges, and the fact that she failed to disclose that information prior to running for office or serving on borough council. In fact, she didn't disclose it until she was caught and exposed, and she certainly didn't expose it to you when she asked for your vote. Now she claims to be the victim of me telling you all about it, when in fact, you are the victims. Listen, everyone makes mistakes, but let's be
Including
clear.
you, Mario.
You
You
should
didn't
know,
disclose
Mario.
Let's be
your
clear. Let me finish.
issue.
Listen,
You
everyone
did a
makes
great
mistakes.
job with all your mistakes. And this is your apology?
This isn't making,
Disgraceful,
this is not an
Mario.
apology. This is me bringing everyone up to speed, okay? I
No,
apologize earlier.
you said you
didn't
apologized.
Rather,
disclose
it is
the fact
knowingly
that you
concealing
tried
your
to
income
defraud your
or
own
information
client.
from the IRS to avoid paying that what you owe.
It's okay.
This isn't making an innocent mistake on your tax return. It is certainly deceptive for a candidate running on transparency campaign to not disclose that fact. So while I
Mario, you
believe in
can deflect
redemption,
from your error.
so while I
all you
believe
want,
in
but we don't-
redemption, so while I
Mario.
believe in redemption, I also believe in honesty and disclosure.
You were not being honest yourself.
Oh,
my
and
God.
even in
Disclose.
Sabari's mea culpa,
Wow.
she said that she was 25 and not 33 when it actually happened.
Wow.
But there's more.
It was
Aside from her
25.
tax evasion conviction, it is stunning to me that someone like Councilwoman Sabari would even dare to talk about fiscal responsibility and ethics. Let's remember, she voted to dismiss all charges against our racist, sexist, bullying former police chief Mike Chaffee, and then gave him $670,000, essentially
Oh my God,
hush
this is
money,
so political.
at taxpayers' expense to walk
Yeah.
out.
So Mario, that entitles you to be
Folks,
racist,
that
sexist,
vote
and a
was
bully
neither
too?
fiscally
Because that's
responsible
exactly
or
what
ethical.
you are, Mario.
Folks, that vote was neither fiscally
And you showed it
responsible or
clearly,
ethical.
Mario. You showed
It
it
was a
clearly.
giveaway to political crony.
to an
Bergen
18-year-old girl
record,
who wanted to voice her
Democratic
opinion
Party
against
tool
your view.
did not report anything
Sad.
about this.
So sad.
I will
So
never,
sad, Mario.
to add insult to injury,
Just by you
Democratic
being there,
House
it's an
Majority
insult
made
to injury.
Debbie Sabari the point person on our affordable housing litigation. I will never back down from protecting our quality of life, no matter how many times the Democrats or their friends in the news media attack me personally. Everyone realizes now that the Democrats, the developer, and the media must attack me to get what they want, high-density housing, and to make some serious money. But that's not what the people who elected me or I want. This is not about a bill that I rescinded. This is all about Democrats stealing your home values. I was recently asked if I believe there's a dual system of justice in America. We have one system, but dual applications, and that must end. As I mentioned earlier, we see disparate application and double standards of justice in Englewood Cliffs and in New Jersey. Weinberg, Johnson, Huddle, Aversa, Osong refused to condemn a former police chief who condoned blatant racism, sexism, overtime abuse, and threatening elected officials.
That's so not true.
Attorney General Graywall was silent as well. We see
Well,
the
it's funny you say that,
application of
Mario.
justice.
You did the
We
same
see
thing
the
that you're
application
accusing
of
everybody else
justice.
of doing.
Let me finish and you can have the
No,
floor.
there's no reason to. You're
We
just full
see
of
the
baloney.
application of justice depending on who you are and who you know, and that is wrong. We saw Councilwoman O's adult son arrested for assaulting a taxi driver
Oh, are you
with little-
really going to
with
do that?
little consequence to him.
Are
We
you
saw
really
former
gonna
Mayor
do
Parisi's
that?
adult son arrested for drug offenses with little consequence. We all know
The
those
more the
outcomes would
mayor
have been
goes
different.
on, the
We
more
all
the
know
mayor
those
goes
outcomes
on,
would have been
the
different
more,
if those arrested were not
So
connected.
sad, Mario. You are a despicable human.
We
It's
all
unbelievable.
know those outcomes would have been different if those arrested were not politically connected. Justice needs to be restored. Enough
You know
said.
what? I really.
Mario, this is a disgrace to our town, what you're
That's
saying.
fine. I know
Okay.
the truth hurts, but I believe in full transparency with the public, and there you have it. So that's,
What about your issue?
what
with
about me? I have nothing to hide from
you?
you.
Mario, you
Okay,
tried to
so-
defraud your own client. You
Who
almost
made
told
that up?
in New York. Why don't you talk
Okay,
about
so-
that? Why don't you talk
I'm
about
happy to-
that, Mario?
You could keep spreading rumors, Gloria, all you want, but your son
It's
got
not a
arrested.
It's a
rumor.
rumor. No, it's a
And you
fact,
know-
Mario. That's a
You
fact.
know, if your son was not politically connected,
Fact,
you would have had a
Mario.
major problem.
Oh, you know what?
Mario,
You could get in
Okay,
trouble for
so-
saying this in
Mario.
public. I make sure that
Let's
you
move
do.
on to department head reports. I
No,
want
we're
to
not
thank the
moving on.
DPW.
we are
The
not.
DPW did a fantastic
No.
job after the
No,
storm.
Mario.
We
You
had-
wanted to make your statement.
Oh, you
and
want
you
to speak?
Honest, yes, I do want to speak.
Oh, good. Go ahead, speak.
I
I
want
would
to
like to too.
because quite honestly, I put my statement out there to the public and I stand
Right.
by it.
I read it. You were off by 8
You
years.
want to debate whether I was 25 when this all happened?
Even
I
in
was
your mea
25.
culpa, you can't be accurate.
But it's okay. But it's okay. Because honestly, I'm good. I made my mistake. I paid for it. I paid my taxes. I did what I had to do. And I am the person I am today based on the mistakes I made in the past.
That's
What I've done for this town has only been for the benefit of this town. I have nothing to gain. I know nothing. I've done nothing with Normandy. I've never had any business with them. Mind you, I have been in the real estate industry for a very long time. And I do have something to offer as far as my real estate background and my finance background to talk with Normandy and Fair Share Housing and everybody else to try to do the right thing by this town. And I'm not talking about high density housing. Nobody wants high density. That doesn't work for anybody. We need to live up to our affordable housing obligation. Okay? So the way to do that is to work with everybody involved. Do you realize that there are only 4 towns in Bergen County who haven't settled? And we're one
Well,
of them. And the
Deb, let
other,
me interrupt. Let me interrupt for a second because I don't want to get off the subject of his disgusting display of apology for his
That's
error.
an apology. I apologize separately to.
I am
protest
speaking.
organizer.
So the
You
first thing
interrupted
is,
me quite
Mario,
a bit,
when
Mr.
you apologize, let me explain something to you.
No, let
When
me
you
explain something.
apologize,
That
you don't
wasn't the
say,
apology. That was
I'm
a
sorry it's
recounting
someone
of facts.
else's fault that I listened to someone else. You're a jerk. That's disgraceful. It's despicable what you did. You taught that girl the worst
No,
lesson
no,
anyone
no,
can
no,
teach
no.
anyone.
No,
Yes,
you're
you did,
wrong.
Mario.
You're
You're a
wrong.
racist.
And
Your
this-
comments are racist.
No,
Your
I'm not a
attitude
racist.
is
In fact,
your-
you failed to condemn
your
racism.
apology
You had
is
4 opportunities to
disgusting.
do it.
The fact
What-
that you would apologize by saying, I'm sorry, it's someone else's fault, just shows
Right.
how little
That's
you
not what
are.
I said.
That's exactly what you
I
just did.
apologized and I explained how it came
No,
about. and
you
how it'll never have to
apologize
make it-
for everybody
You
else
just don't
making a
accept the
mistake,
fact
according to you.
that I did what I did, and I clearly.
Ed,
You did it by yourself, Mario. This council had nothing
No,
to
that's
do
not
with
true.
it.
There's a record.
That
of
is
it.
totally true, Mario.
There's a clear record of how that happened.
Yeah, okay, Mario,
You could
yeah.
keep being
Your
in denial.
clarity.
Ed
Your
and Mario.
clarity.
Mayor Kranjak, it's absolutely false what you stated. You wrote me an email to draft a letter to Miss Gill. And when I didn't do that, you claimed I was being insubordinate.
That's
I
not true.
drafted
I
the
have it right
letter.
there.
Excuse me,
My email was, "Good morning. Please send me a draft of the cover letter."
I
and
hope
invoice from Ms.
everyone
Gill."
sees
Mayor
you for what you
Kranjak,
are,
And
Mario.
you sent it over to me,
A
and you never
fraud.
objected to it. You never said it was wrong to do. You never said.
Mayor
you never
Kranjak,
said anything.
Mayor Kranjak,
I asked you
you
for guidance.
redrafted the letter.
I would have known
You
it was wrong
made
to
it
do,
even
Mario.
stronger, in my opinion, more insulting. You asked me to email it to her, copy you, and then send it certified return receipt. When you didn't hear back from me, you sent me another email asking, did you get this done? And I said, yes, I personally delivered it to the post office because we don't have mail coming
Okay,
to the
Let me
building.
ask you a question.
Mayor,
Where in all
I'd
that
like
did
to
you-
finish.
Where in all that did you say, "Don't send it"? You never did.
When
did
you and I spoke and I said,
No, you never did.
I don't think you could do this, and you
No,
laughed.
in fact, you
Once
said we
again,
could.
Mayor,
Mario,
let me
this is your
finish.
apology.
No,
Mayor,
it's not an
let me
apology.
finish.
I apologized directly with Ms. Gill.
Mayor, when
Yeah,
she
that doesn't
wrote
help
back,
everybody else, Mario.
when Miss Gill wrote back, you said to me in an email, respond to her and to her questions, give her the answers she wants. And I wrote to you, she doesn't want to communicate with me. It's between you and her. And you lashed back at me like
No,
you
there was no
usually
lashing.
do.
In fact,
And you
that's not
wrote,
true.
and I quote, regarding Gill, we are to treat her like any other user of police services. And the last time I checked, you deal with her. BLM is no different. They can protest, they can use police services, they pay for police services. Those were your words in
I
an
asked
email.
you- Yeah, based on what you told me was the right thing to do. which
Mayor,
wasn't, and we fixed
Mayor,
it, and I rescinded
So,
it. and
so
I
yeah, Mario,
apologized
that's a
for
good
it.
apology. Right, exactly. You rescinded
So,
nothing
Mr.
because there was no
Aversa-
bill ever sent by this council.
I rescinded it.
That was your
Mayor, in
bill.
fact, when I told you that it was wrong what you were doing, what did you write back? What did you say to me
No,
under the phone?
You never said it was
You-
wrong.
you
In fact,
said,
the council
While you're
itself-
at it, bill her for the chalk writing at Whitty Field. What it cost the DPW to wash the walkway.
You realize, though, that this whole council had a copy of that at the last meeting, but didn't say anything. And they even had the emails before that, didn't say
Once
anything.
again, this is your apology for sending a bill to the
No, this is
resident?
not my apology, Ed. You
Right.
keep playing games. I
You're
apologize.
damn right it's
to
not your
Ms. Gill.
apology. Exactly.
No, Ed, this is not the apology.
Exactly.
I
Because
apologize.
you don't
separately.
even know how to do that, Mario.
No, so this is why, for the public, this is
You
why.
made our town look
Everybody,
horrible, man.
guys,
You should
the mayor,
apologize to every resident in this community for that.
the mayor.
And Billy,
the
if
mayor-
you back him up, you're just as guilty as he is.
There's no guilt.
The mayor
Go ahead, Billy. Let's see you
sent
talk
out
yourself
an
out of this one with the
apology
strings
letter,
behind.
and he rescinded the bill.
There was
Right?
nothing
That's
to
what-
rescind, Billy. We never sent a bill. What part don't you understand? He doesn't have the
The
authority
bill-
to send a bill. He did that unilaterally without the
The
council's
bill-
consent.
The bill was sent by the mayor as well as the borough administrator, right?
No, it was sent
And
by,
he
sent by
rescinded
the
it.
mayor. Let's face it, Billy.
That's
Come
true.
on.
Ed, you know, you
No,
could
no, I
make-
mean,
you don't
that's-
have to
that's-
accept it.
Okay,
Bill,
That's-
You gonna defend him for this?
You didn't sign
Councilman
off
Wu,
on it.
I'm not denying having sent the letter to Miss Gill.
okay.
I
that's
wrote
all.
nothing in the email and I said, please see attached from the mayor.
Yeah,
I provided no extra
Yeah,
commentary.
to be clear, I don't support billing Emily Gill for that. She has every right to exercise her First Amendment rights, and that's my position. So, guys, let's just move on with our agenda, okay?
No, I'm not finished yet. There's a lot being said about me. And again, I have released a statement to the public, and I do
Hello?
apologize for my past and for my mistakes. But I can assure the residents of Inglewood Cliffs that any position that I am taking today is a position that I feel very strongly about. Now, I believe that this town needs to settle our obligation of affordable housing. And that means working with all parties involved. That means working with the developers, working with fair share housing. And the only way that we can accomplish our obligations is by working together. So, we can deflect and talk about my past from 30 years ago and the fact that I didn't pay my taxes and I was charged with one count of tax evasion and fined $50, okay? Which is really, you know what? I regret that I made that mistake. I took care of it. I paid my taxes. I did what I had to do. But for the mayor to now lash out at me about something that happened 30 years ago, that's really kind of pathetic because it's unfair. I'm trying to do the right thing by everybody in Inglewood Cliffs. I didn't join the council to be a politician. And I really resent the fact that this is what happens in this town, because you know what's going to happen? Nobody is going to want to be a public servant in this town if your family and your friends are going to be attacked, because it's not okay. That's not okay. So again, and this is the last time I'm saying it, I apologize for my mistake. The mayor doesn't believe it's a mistake. It was a mistake. I didn't pay my taxes. And you know what? I took care of it. I've paid my taxes. I'm an upright citizen. I have been an active member of the community of Inglewood Cliffs. I've been on the Board of Education. I've been on the Girl Scouts. I've been on the council. I am very active in the community. So I don't apologize for that. I apologize for my mistakes. And hopefully we can move forward and put this behind us, because this is about politics, what's happening now. It's not about me and who I am today. This is about who I was when I was 25 years old. So I will not answer questions about this anymore.
Fine, but who were
Really
you
not
2 years ago when you ran for
Mario,
office?
Mario, there is so many things that I could have said about you in the past and in the current, and about your settlements and your litigations. And I refuse to do that, because you know why?
Well, who
Because
were you
I'm
2
bigger
years
than
ago
that.
when you didn't tell the public about
I'm
your?
bigger than that. You know
I
what?
I honestly don't care that you pled guilty to anything. But the
Mario,
Mario, don't deflect from your errors,
Uh-huh.
please.
fact is
Let's
that
stay
you
focused
didn't
on
tell the
your
public.
disgusting apology.
Ed and Mario,
Excuse me.
the two of you, it's enough already, okay? Yes, I didn't bring it up because I didn't think that it was still an issue. It happened 30 years ago.
25.
Are you serious? No, 25 years ago, I was charged. This investigation happened 30 years ago. Okay, I'm sorry. I was a child. I just moved into this community of Inglewood Cliffs. I only ran for the Board of Education probably when I was in the town already 14 years. 2 years ago, I ran for council, only with all good intentions to help the community with my experience. That's all I wanted to do. So again, please stop trying to deflect on what's happening here. I am not going to answer questions anymore.
No one's asking any questions.
Right.
No, Mario, you want to try to make this out to be something it isn't.
Actually,
It happened
I don't.
30 years
I
ago.
don't. I
And
just
I'm
wanna
not
bring the
going
truth
to
out the
condemn
public
you,
like I always do.
but you need to stop.
No,
You
I want to bring the
stop.
truth out, and I did, okay? And I've done it before. Now, the funny thing about what Ms. Duffy said before is that I made her do something. But meanwhile, there's like a long list of things that I asked her to do that she refuses to do, like including tonight. She's not listening to me, right? So obviously, she mailed that letter knowingly without objecting to it. Okay, let's move on.
Mayor, when I don't do what you want, you claim that I am insubordinate.
Like you are right now, because you didn't share joint control of this meeting with me.
That's right.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
So department head reports, you should have all gotten them. I want to thank the DPW for removal of storm damage and making things right. We had a flash storm as well after the bigger storm come through, and that did some damage. They also did a great job of installing hand sanitizers at Whitty Field. They're foot pump operated, and I just thought it would be a good thing to try to keep people safe and healthy. The Englewood Cliffs Police Department did some major work last week. I was coming back from a run at about 11 o'clock at night, and I saw the Englewood Cliffs Police Department, the Englewood Police Department, Tenafly Police Department, Bergen County Sheriff's Department, and Palisade Interstate Park Commission Police. And they apprehended 2 individuals who have had some prior terrible run-ins with the law. So they did a great job, and I thank them for that. And I thank all of the, I guess, the neighboring towns, police departments, and the Palisades Interstate Park Commission Police who helped us with that. On August 28th in the afternoon, we had a promotion ceremony at the Englewood Cliffs Police Department for 5 new lieutenants and 5 new sergeants. It was a very hot day in the sun, and they were fully in their dress. They're dressed in their dress uniforms, and everybody got through it just fine. Chief Henkelman did a great job greeting everyone, and I believe there are only 2 council members who showed up for the ceremony, Councilman Farrow and Councilman Wu. I thank you for attending, and I thank you for supporting the Englewood Cliffs Police Department. As to the others, I wish you would all make it to these events as well. We have 9/11 ceremony on Friday. In correspondence, there's nothing listed, although there was correspondence between me and the president of the NAACP, which I asked the clerk to put on here, but she didn't.
You didn't provide it to me, Mayor.
And
I asked.
and you have access to my emails. And then also,
Mayor,
I received
stop
an
right
envelope.
there. I do not have access to your emails, please.
I tell you, you have access. You can do whatever you want with it.
No, I don't go into your emails, and I do not have the
correspondence
password.
of-
Thank you.
There was also correspondence of an anonymous nature that I received on Friday regarding Jimmy's song, which is not here either.
Are you really going to do that? Are you?
I'm mentioning what I get.
It's an anonymous letter.
It was signed by.
Mario, have some class.
Be
man.
very careful.
Who was it
Be
signed by?
very careful.
So next up,
You better pass on.
What a despicable human being.
You better pass on.
So the person who just called me a despicable human being is our
Yes,
borough
you are.
attorney, Joe Marinello, who thinks that because he's got
You are.
4 Democrats on council, that he could say whatever he wants to
I
say.
think you are a legal
In a complete letdown of
I
his
already said that to you
professional
too, Mario. So
responsibility.
you want to
okay.
go there too?
Mr. Marinello, we will deal with you and the ethics committee.
Mario.
Your ethics committee, you should be in front of the ethics committee right now for what you're doing to Mr. Song.
Mario,
The
I
disgrace.
didn't do anything. I just mentioned
No, no,
that.
You're a disgrace.
Mario, you just mentioned a letter that wasn't even signed, that you're trying to get into record. And the reality is that it was sent anonymously. So every letter that comes into town, do you expect that we should put it on our agenda?
We've had
Like,
other
what if
anonymous.
somebody sent a letter about you? and
We've had
said-
other anonymous letters
and
on.
said
that
something-
They shouldn't have been on either.
And
we've had other anonymous
put
letters
that
as
on the
well.
agenda. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that to you or anybody else on the council.
Listen, you would do a lot of things to me.
Mario has different standards because he doesn't understand what ethics are.
Well, I have standards, but you have
Yeah.
double standards.
No,
Yeah, well, your standards are so
And
low, I can't go
Having
that far
standards
down.
is one thing, but double standards
I can't go that far down.
doesn't
to your
work. You're better off not
standards.
having any.
Let me just state so the public understands. The last time this happened, the mayor insisted that a letter regarding a resident be put on an unsigned letter, be put on the agenda. And when it was on the agenda but not discussed, one of the mayor's political allies Oprah'd the letter, and the town spent several $1,000s having to defend against the release of that letter, which was unsigned and defamatory. And the same thing is going to happen now, mark my words.
So then I'm moving on to the minutes. The
Good job, Mayor.
So
the
moved.
The issue with the minutes, I wrote Ms. Duffy an email yesterday, and I'll read it to you regarding the minutes, because they've been politicized, quite frankly, and I mentioned that attached, here's the email from yesterday. Ms. Duffy, attached are my edits and comments to the minute drafts that you provided late last week. So I spent about 2.5 hours going through them and marking them up to make them accurate. As a general matter,
Not that busy.
and as a part of, I actually did it from midnight to 2:30. As a general matter and as a part of your municipal
much did you bill
duty,
us?
when someone reads these minutes in the future, the reader should know exactly what took place. Who said what
That's
was
not
said,
true. That's
what was
what
the reaction,
it's about.
etc. Look, don't
It's
interrupt.
okay.
You can speak
I
out.
make a motion to
These
approve the
minutes
minutes.
do not do that. They are unacceptable, and I again question your ability or willingness to record and report minutes properly. This is a solemn task for a municipal clerk. I hereby direct that all meetings be recorded in the future and the recording be transcribed. Putting the typos aside, the draft minutes you presented are in many places vague, bereft with incomplete sentences, factually false, create a false light, and are politically
know that?
skewed to justify an end by the Democrats on council, and in
That is
particular,
not
your good friend Deborah Sabari. Moreover, missing in most of the minutes are the statements I made in every closed session meeting in 2019 and 2020 regarding affordable housing. To wit,
Actually, there are a lot of statements
I
that
do
are
not
not in
support
there
any
regarding what
residential
I have said.
housing at 800 Sylvan, and 2, we should not settle with Normandy. The first set of closed session minutes, February 27, 2019. So at that meeting, I remember it very well because I was assaulted by Al
That
Wunsch,
is not
Your
true.
memory is very, very
That is
sketchy there,
completely
not
Mario.
ignored
I'll tell
by
you
our
what.
clerk. It's
That is
completely
not
ignored by
true.
our clerk.
That is not
In
true.
fact, Al Wunsch literally got up from his chair,
That is
walked
not
over
true.
2 feet, stood over me with a clenched fist,
Oh
and
my
asked for
God.
papers or Peterson, I'm
Okay.
not sure which. Walked
Mario,
in-
if you're done with your story,
Walked
can we
in.
get
I'm
on with
not
the
done.
facts of the
Walked
borough?
in.
Can you let him
I actually
speak?
saw him doing that. So that's all missing from those minutes.
Okay,
So-
are you done with your
This didn't
storytelling?
happen.
Go and deal with
It
the
did
minutes.
not happen. It
Mr.
did not.
It did
Racontor, are we
happen.
done with your storytelling so we can move
We are
on?
going to deal with the minutes and with the clerk's ability to take minutes separately.
We
Okay.
are. We're gonna do it right now. I make a
But I
motion to
object,
approve the
I
minutes as
object
written.
for the record to all.
You're
these-
allowed to object, Mario.
Ed,
That's okay. You
Ed,
have that right.
Yeah, I wasn't at that meeting, but I will say that right after,
Then
right
if
after
you
that
weren't there,
meeting
you can't
occurred,
say
know what
anything.
happened.
right after that meeting occurred, the mayor did say to me, unbelievable what happened. And I was stood over.
Oh, how
And-
perfect is that?
But
You
But
were
Billy,
there.
you weren't there,
no,
so
no.
that's
I'm
a
just
totally
telling you.
irrelevant statement.
I'm just telling you what happened. I mean, you guys know what
No,
happened.
no,
I
you're not
wasn't
telling
in
us
the
what
room.
happened. You're
exactly
telling us
what
what the
happened.
mayor
You
told
were
you
there.
what happened.
I wasn't in the room.
That's right.
Exactly.
So then you
have
need to stop. So I make a motion to approve all the minutes as written, as
I-
presented. Do we have a second?
Second,
There were a lot
Clerk,
of
please take a
typos
roll
also.
call. Let's move on with borough business. Please, let's move this along,
There were
people.
also a lot of typos that I wanted corrected, and usually.
It's okay, she can correct the typos. We
Usually,
know
let me
that.
finish. Usually what happens in a professional context is when you have a redraft, you have a red line of that draft, come back to you to show all the changes.
You don't
And
need
that just
that.
doesn't
Mario.
happen here.
The
So
motion's
you-
on the floor. There's a second. You can vote or not vote. You don't get to vote, so the other council people can vote.
You are disgraceful.
Yes, you are.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
Before I take my vote, I just want to let Ed and Sabari know that while Sabari was talking, nobody interrupt her. So please, while the mayor is talking, allow him to talk, whatever the way you feel, and then after you can say whatever you want. Okay?
Yeah.
But
that
don't
would be
interrupt-
fine.
don't interrupt
Don't be
him
fine,
again,
Ramon,
okay?
If he was speaking for truth and not feelings.
See,
But
this
he
is
wants
what
to
happened.
lie. He's not going to stand.
Don't
for it. So I'm
interrupt
sorry.
him again, Ed, please.
I will
So
if he
this is what
continues to
happens
lie.
when.
I'm
Ms.
asking
Duffy-
you not to interrupt him.
And I'm telling you, Ramon, I will interrupt if he continues to lie.
So this is what happens
Thank
when
Ms.
Ms.
Clerk,
Duffy is given control of the Zoom, right? Because
Ms.
she
Clerk,
won't mute people who interrupt.
Ms. Clerk.
This
Councilman
would never
Farrow,
happen
Oh,
at a regular
Mrs.
meeting.
Clerk,
Mr.
Councilman
Farrow is
Farrow?
right.
Mrs.
Mr.
Clerk, can
Farrow,
you hear me?
do you have an answer?
Mr. Farrow cannot vote. These are 2019 minutes.
Right, he
Oh.
had,
I abstain on that.
thank you.
Well, you can't abstain either.
I cannot abstain? Yeah, there's
So
no
you're not
vote.
eligible to
Right.
vote.
Right.
Right.
Councilperson Sabari?
Yes.
O? Councilwoman O? Song?
Yeah, she left the room again.
Yes.
Oh, she's not there again.
She's there. Councilwoman O? I can't hear her.
You know why you can't hear her? Because she's not there.
Okay. Song?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Wu?
Just for the record on these minutes, Lizette, as you know, I emailed you firmly, no comment got in any of the minutes that I've been firmly opposed to residential housing at 800 Sylvan, and that we shouldn't be negotiating against ourselves with no RDP number from the court. I mentioned,
Councilman Wu, if you mentioned it in 2019, I would have put it in.
I did mention it in 2019, right? Okay, so it should have been in there, okay?
Okay.
No problem.
So I'm voting no.
Mention
Okay.
it.
Minutes are a mess.
Councilwoman O? I see your microphone going in and out.
She's not on. She's not
She
present.
she actually is not muted, but you can't hear her.
No, she's not muted.
Not muted. She's not there. She puts her face up and then she goes and does something else.
That's not true.
Why don't you all turn on your
works,
cameras so
Mario.
the public?
Sometimes it
Councilman
works,
O,
sometimes
can
it
you
doesn't
raise
have.
your hand?
Why don't you all
Photo rep.
cameras on? Turn your cameras on, everybody on council. Why do you refuse to turn your cameras on?
Here, I'm-
Why, you missed me, Mario?
All right,
She's not there.
all right,
Move
she's,
on.
all right,
It's not that I miss you, Ed. It's that the
she's
public
there.
needs to
I
see
just
you.
can't hear her.
Ed, Mario's
sure they
making
missed
a
me
very
too.
reasonable request here for the cameras to be on. Come on.
Well, as you just said, Billy, it's a request. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Well, I think that what's going to happen is all these meetings are going to be invalidated because you're not actually present.
Members of the public, please remain
How it works,
muted.
Mario.
You hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now it's working.
Okay, vote for the minutes, yes, no,
Well, that's because
recuse,
you're back in the
abstain.
room, Gloria.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor, the members of the public can remain muted until its public portion.
So well, those are the rules, aren't they? The other rules are that no one interrupts anybody, but that's been happening a lot. So look,
Coming from you, those are living glass houses.
you know what? I know my faults and I take full responsibility for them, and that's it. So
We noticed by your last apology.
no,
Okay,
you know, Ed, just to be clear, you're trying to spin things in a bad direction for yourself and for this town.
Oh, no, not for me, Mario. You spun it already.
No.
I just expected a nice apology from you.
There was a nice apology. There was an
to the
email that
resident.
went out.
No,
So-
an apology
so
where
can I
you
have a
say, I'm
motion to
sorry, I
open-
listened to other
So
people.
what I'm going
is
to do
not an
now is
apology.
for the public, we're going to open to the public for public portion. What's going to happen is you raise your hand virtually, or if you have your camera on, you could wave at us. I will recognize you and I will tell the clerk to unmute you and to have you speak. State your name and address, please, when you're called upon. Usually I would do this, but the clerk is violating my rights as mayor right now. So we're
please
going to.
stop, Mayor.
That's
No,
because
you stop violating my rights.
Okay.
That's what I want you to do, okay?
That's-
Because
that's
all these
not the
people
case.
who you think are going to protect you in the future are not going to be there for you, okay?
You
Threat
I'm
it
not
again, just
asking
like
for
you
any
bully
protection,
every
Mayor.
resident in
So
town.
can I
That's
have a
what you do.
motion to open to the public, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so let me see if there's any hands up.
I see Emily's hands up.
Yes.
Two hands up.
Mayor, Ms. Gill would like to speak.
Sure, by all means. You have to unmute yourself, Ms. Gill.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. And I just want to say before I start that I've been speaking with the people at Fair Share Housing, and affordable housing is pretty much a done deal, at least in my view. So now it's up to the adults in charge to decide whether or not you want to continue spending millions of dollars fighting something that's inevitable, and I frankly don't see the point. And again, since affordable housing is going to happen, I'm curious about what's going to happen after affordable housing is implemented, because after all the affordable housing, anti-affordable housing sentiment thrown around really casually at these kinds of meetings, I'm curious as to whether or not any conversations have been had on the subject of integration and making this town more welcoming and inclusive. If you're even thinking about how the new residents will be treated, which is sort of what you're supposed to be doing in the town government and as the mayor.
Absolutely, Ms. Gill. Everyone is welcome to live in Englewood Cliffs, to visit Englewood Cliffs, to work in Englewood Cliffs. We do have events that are very much community building events, such as Community Night Out, National Night Out by the police. Community Night Out is by the borough. I believe the school has a series of events as well. There's an autumn festival usually, and a trunk or treat. And we expanded the offering of community events since I became mayor. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, we haven't had many of those planned events, including a 5K run that we've been having for the last 3 or 4 years, which has been a very nice, well-attended event. Even if you're not running or walking, it's been a nice community building event. So as I reached out to you, I also encourage you to let me know what we could do to improve Englewood Cliffs for current and future residents. So I encourage you to share your ideas with me and the council, and we will, of course, find a way to implement anything that is workable. So I'm not sure what else I could say right now, but I'm delighted to work with you in that regard.
Ms. Gill, my name's Deborah Sabari, and I've been working for the last almost 2 years to try to implement affordable housing in our town and to reduce the impact of high density housing. The real issue in our town is not affordable housing. I think that everybody really welcomes the diversification in town. I think the problem is that high density means that developers come in and they basically have a lot of units. So we'll take 800 Sylvan as an example. If we put 600 units at 800 Sylvan, that will give 120 affordable housing units. But that is a big impact on the infrastructure of the town. So I think that there are ways to work with Fair Share Housing, which I've been trying to do, and with 800 Sylvan to accomplish our affordable housing obligation so that it works for everybody, not just one particular group, for the town and the infrastructure. And I think that we can make that happen. And I'm trying very hard to make that happen right now. It's not about affordable housing. It's about high density housing for me. We can't have developers coming in and putting high density because that doesn't benefit anybody. So right now, really what we need to focus on is living up to our affordable housing obligation and working with the developers so that we can make that happen for this town, because that really is the only way it's going to happen.
Thank you, Ms. Gill.
Sorry, I just want to say something else. My main concern is about how the sentiments I've heard in a lot of these town calls will trickle down into the town. So anti-affordable housing sentiment, I've heard a lot of, not in this call, but I've heard a lot of racism, frankly, in the town surrounding the issue of affordable housing. And I'm just worried about how that's going to affect the schools. Is there any talk about implementing anti-racism training in the schools to protect the kids, because some of these parents don't know how to talk about these things?
Sure, Ms. Gill, I will say this. I am sure that the superintendent of schools takes care of all those matters fully and appropriately and makes everyone welcome. And I'm sure that if there's training needed, there's training given. But just so you understand, as the municipal government, we are completely separate from the school government. There's a school board and a school board president, and I encourage you to speak with Shauna Joffrey, who's the school board president, and Ms. Brewer, who's the superintendent. And then what I always do with them is say, to the extent the municipal government can support or help anything that you're doing where you need us to help you, we're always there for you. So in the past, we've done things together, and in the past, they've done things without us because they don't need us for everything. So I encourage you to also ask them that same question, but I'm sure that, we are a welcoming community, and I don't think that there should be any concern about, additional people moving to town or not feeling welcome. I did not grow up in town. I grew up on the Clifton-Patterson border, and it's just, we're all Americans. We all know how to get along with each other. And I think that the vast majority of people always do the right thing. And you may read about a few outliers who don't seem to get the message right. But again, I want you to leave this call knowing that we are a welcoming community and that we will work with the schools to do whatever is necessary or appropriate to welcome anyone and everyone, and also to provide proper training if it's needed, or any support if it's needed. I don't know if there's anyone on council who wants to add anything to that.
Ms. Gill, this is Jimmy Song. I just want to thank you for coming out tonight. I want to apologize on behalf of the council for you receiving that bill. I don't think that you should have never seen that bill. And if the mayor's not going to say this in public, I want to apologize, okay? And I commend you for, standing up for what you believe in, and bringing. It's not an easy thing what you achieved, okay? You brought a lot of attention to this issue, and it's an important issue. And when I was your age, I could tell you I wasn't doing that. So I really want to thank you for coming out here tonight and discussing this important issue with the public, okay?
Thank you. I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. So Mr. Song, you may have left the meeting, but I think it was clear that there had been an apology given. The bill was rescinded. If you want to keep spinning this for whatever.
I'm not spinning it. I'm not spinning it. I'm just apologizing.
I don't want people to leave this meeting thinking that, one, the bill was not rescinded. It was. Two, that there was no apology given. There was.
It wasn't rescinded because we never approved it as a council. You unilaterally sent that bill.
Okay, fine. It's semantics, but
it's not semantics, Mario. That's the issue.
I was told to give it, and I did. Okay, so thank you.
Once again, your apology is terrible. You're apologizing to blaming somebody else. Just accept it.
Let me finish speaking with
Ed, allow him to speak, Ed.
Excuse me, Ed. You just got.
I already told you what I said.
So Ms. Gill, you have my email. If you have ideas about what we could do, what we could implement, please share them with us. I'm pretty good at getting things done and pushing things through. So thanks so much.
Well, Ms. Gill, if you really want somebody who's open-minded and who is all about implementing affordable housing in our town, I recommend you speak with me.
You can speak with anyone you want. Eventually, it'll come with me, to me, and I will take care of it for you. So this is not a contest, Debbie, about who's more open-minded to somebody else. Don't do that. That's not a healthy environment to create. Ms. Gill's welcome to communicate with anyone she wishes, and I encourage her to do that.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Gloria.
Okay, so I wanted to make 2 statements before, and I was unable to because my speaker was not working. Ms. Gill, I would like to also thank you for joining us tonight. And I wanted to make 2 points about you receiving the bill. Number one, Mayor, I don't know if, Ms. Gill, I don't know if the mayor is an attorney, but I want to bring this up and let you know that he should have known not to bill you in first place because you were just purely exercising your constitutional rights. He should have known that in first place because I'm sure he had to take constitutional law while he was in law school. But yet he tried to blame it on the borough clerk for sending out that bill, which we all know now that that is not how things happen. Number two, the point that I wanted to make was in the past we had situations where we had billed certain private organizations for using the police and for its overtime. But someone exercising their freedom of speech, their constitution rights, it doesn't fall under private organizations. So again, I want to make very clear that mayor had acted unilaterally on his own without talking to the council, and he sent you the bill himself. So I would like to, on behalf of the majority council, apologize for something that should have never happened, and the bill should not be rescinded because it should not have happened in first place. So thank you for joining us today. And if there's anything that you would like to, speak with the council about the affordable housing, please feel free to reach out. And I really do want to apologize for all the unwarranted attention that this town has received on the national level. And I wanted to really welcome you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see,
Mayor,
Mr.
Mr. Olivo had his hand up.
Oh, Mr. Bello first. Please, Mr.
Sure.
Bello.
No problem.
You have
Mr.
to-
Bello, please unmute.
You're muted, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'd like to thank Emily for her patriotism, for her participation in a democracy. And Emily, I hope that one day you go into politics and perhaps come back to town and working our town. With respect to Emily's comments about making our town more welcoming, I'd like to suggest that perhaps next year the council can consider participating in Gay Pride Week, which is now a national and an international event. And the other issue that can be addressed again is to have our town become a stigma-free town. Again, thank you, Emily, and that's it for me. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Bello. Just so you know, last year I initially flew the Gay Pride flag over at Borough Hall, and we did it again this year, I believe.
Yes, it
And-
did fly for 30 days.
And you feel free to share any ideas with me that you have. You had a second point. What was that? I'm sorry.
That our town should once again reconsider becoming a designated stigma-free town.
Sir, we did that.
And it failed.
No, we did pass it. It initially failed, but then we passed it, I believe, 2 years ago. We just had a proviso making sure that it's stigma-free, but there's a proviso that it wouldn't support any kind of criminal conduct. So,
Okay.
So
Thank you. And
yeah,
congratulations again to Emily.
Thank you.
Next person is Elias.
Hi there. Hi, this is Elias, 66 Elm Street. I just heard something earlier before. I just wanted to clarify because it was said that there's a anti-fair share housing or anti-affordable housing contingent or something like that. And I've never heard that in any of these calls, right? I think it's very important that publicly we make clear Englewood Cliffs does not oppose the law. We do not oppose fair share housing in any way. What we oppose is fair share housing being used as a loophole to have builders rezone our town, essentially. So I just wanted to make that crystal clear publicly and loudly that there's nobody I've ever heard in this town or on the board that opposes fair share housing. That's all. Thank you.
That is correct, Elias, and I thank you for raising that point. You know, I've always said that I don't agree with the way the law is implemented, but that we would comply with it, and I believe in home rule, so we would comply with it on our terms, which is essentially that we would create the number of units of affordable housing and make it a 100% affordable housing project. So thanks for clarifying that as well.
Next person is So-Young Lee.
Yes, hi. My name is So-Young Lee. My address is 195 Pershing Road. I also wanted to actually emphasize on Mr. Elias' point. The Borough of Englewood Cliffs has never been against affordable housing. Mayor always has said that we are going to comply with affordable housing laws. What we are opposing to is development of many portions of the town for residential market rate apartment. So I do not know how this could have been translated into being against affordable housing, because that was never the position of the borough. So if people, the Democrat council members have called mayor racist, I actually would like to ask where those comments came from. Only because the bill was sent and which was rescinded. I mean, is that the only proof that the mayor is a racist? I mean, I really don't understand where all these comments of mayor being a racist and being attacked. And I moved here 10 years ago, and Mayor Kranzak was elected in 2016. Until then, Mayor Parisi, two mayors, they have been, they govern this town for 4 years. And there was no affordable housing unit built during their their time here. So that's why we were not in compliance with affordable housing laws. And as we all know by now, the borough bought a parcel on Hudson Terrace to build a 77 unit, which was derailed by council member Song and Sabari after they were elected. And that's why the borough was found to be in bad faith, because the borough, to Judge Barrington, the borough flipped the plan and they were not complying with affordable housing laws, not because we had no intention, but because our original plan to build 77 units was never implemented after the Democrat council members became majority of this council. So I do not understand why the borough has been depicted as being against affordable housing laws. We are for affordable housing laws. We will comply with affordable housing laws on our terms. We are against residential development in this town, which will only benefit developers. And I mean, affordable housing laws, yes, we all know we need to comply. And fair share housing impose very burdensome obligations on this tiny town. And that's what we need to fight, not affordable housing obligations. So we really should not be confused about what affordable housing obligation, which we support, and the market rate apartment development, which we are against. And I understand Councilwoman Sabari thinks we need to settle, but a lot of residents are against. And council members should listen to residents. I mean, it's not their town only, yes? I'm not finished. Sorry. So you have to really represent resident interest. It's not really your opinion only. You are representing this town's interest. Why are you derailing the town's efforts to comply with affordable housing law?
With all respect, Mrs. Lee, since you addressed me personally, I don't think you are fully clear on the picture of what's happened here in town. Okay. As far as affordable housing in the past, in 2015, there was a plan and it required us to build 9 units on Hudson Terrace. And then when the mayor came into play, he could have built those 9 affordable housing units, but he did not. So yes, did we have an obligation prior to that? No, we didn't. Our obligation is based on vacant land. We didn't have vacant land. So if there's no vacant land, there's no place to put the affordable housing. So Normandy at 800 Sylvan opened up their property after they were denied a commercial corporate application for their site. And you know, that's their right. And in the history of the state of New Jersey, no developer like Normandy has ever lost in the courts. So I know you would like to believe that for some reason, I'm for high density housing. I'm not for high density housing. I am for diversification. I am for affordable housing. And I believe that we can meet our obligation by working with Fair Share Housing and with developers to meet our obligation. Those numbers are not numbers that I've made up or that the mayor has made up. These are numbers that every town has been given by the Supreme Court. Our number is 584. 584 affordable housing units. So if that equates to 20% for developers, do the math. It's a massive amount of units in this town. We all know that that doesn't work. I'm not promoting that because I don't think that's good for anybody. But the reality is that we have to work together. And we can sit here and blame the Democrats and blame the Republicans, but that's not going to get us anywhere. And I'm not going to go down that path with you or anybody else. I was elected because, yes, I am in real estate development. I never promised anybody in this town that I would do away with 800 Sylvan. What I said to people was that chances are very slim that 800 Sylvan will remain corporate, because there actually is more money in developers putting residential. I'm not for that, but the reality is you need to work with them because they have won every court case in the state of New Jersey. Why anybody would believe that Inglewood Cliffs should be treated any differently than the other 310 towns that have settled is beyond me. So let's try to see if we can't do what's best for this town and for Fair Share Housing to make it work for everybody. I understand that's difficult to understand. And if you haven't been involved and you haven't read all the court decisions and you don't really understand the little details of it all, it seems unfair. And I get that. But the reality is, this is what's happening. We've lost, and we've lost big. So let's try to see, only if it can work for this town and for all of its residents and for affordable housing, that we can make this work. And if we can't, and we have to appeal, I understand that. But I don't believe that that's the way to go. I believe there is a medium that works for everybody. And
Okay,
you don't have to agree with me.
Sabari, I gave you the chance to speak. Now I would like to say something.
Absolutely.
You mentioned something going back to 2015, that's when the problem starts.
I didn't say that when the problem started.
I can go all the way back to 1996, that's when the problem starts. That was when the administration, Parisi Senior, was supposed to build 6 units at the Lions Club. It was never built. And I even have a letter that he sent out to the town that was going to be built, but it never happened. He never built it. And that problem comes from all the way back then.
Weren't you on the council at that time, Ramon?
Yes, I was in the council, yes. In the minority, I was the only one sitting there.
So did you vote for affordable housing or against it? I'm confused.
I don't recall the vote at that time. I cannot recall the vote. We can go to the
Okay.
minutes
I
and
just
check
want to
it.
clarify.
Excuse
that
me.
no one ever
No, I
voted for
cannot
it.
say one way or the other because I
have
don't
to-
want to say I don't want to say something that I don't remember. Okay,
Ramon,
Okay,
but we can go to the minutes,
Ramon,
which
don't
I
believe-
have it.
Yeah,
I
they
have the
they
minutes.
have the
Okay?
floor back because
Okay, Ms. Lee has the floor.
Mr. Barry, I am a real estate attorney. I have been practicing for more than 20 years, and I have read all the documents about this case. So when you say I am not clear on the fact, you are wrong, and you are treating all other residents, residents out there, to being stupid, and you are underestimating our knowledge about the case. Excuse me, I have the floor. Can I finish?
Absolutely
Please
not.
do not interrupt. Please do not
Let the
interrupt.
president speak.
Please do not interrupt.
I will interrupt when you're
No,
saying.
please do
I
not.
don't
No, do not
object
interrupt.
to
I did not interrupt you when you spoke. Please do not interrupt. Please do not interrupt when other people speak. Please.
You can go
So,
ahead.
excuse me.
He does that kind of thing.
Excuse
Just
me.
wait.
I said, please
I
do
waited.
not interrupt. When you say I am not clear on the fact, I just want to make sure that your statement is wrong, and the fact that Wyckoff, where Judge Farrington, who imposed those numbers on this town, Wyckoff has 6-unit obligation, and right now the market is so terrible. If we hold out, we can make a difference. The Judge Farrington made these decisions based on arbitrary, no legal basis. We have to appeal. We have to appeal with no settlement. If we settle, we are going to lose the right to go after these people who made bad judgment against our town. So we should not settle. And the fact that Normandy changed corporate development into residential after one denial of plans, that cannot be true. They had no intention of doing corporate development. No developers will go away after they spend millions of dollars on plans by being rejected once. So the fact that you're saying that I don't understand the fact, and this goes back all the way to the Democratic government where they were not complying with affordable housing, and you said you were going to appeal. You only called 2 witnesses, and you are not really fighting for the town after you derailed the path to compliance. And why don't you tell all the residents that this settlement, Normandy settlement, opens all the way overlay zones along 9W to greedy developers, which will take millions of dollars out of our town at the expense of our town. Why don't you tell residents the entire picture, not only Normandy? I mean, the fact that you are saying people really don't understand and little details, you have to understand people do spend time reading the documents. People try to understand by using their own time and efforts, and we are up to date, probably as much as you are. So please just do not say I am not clear on the facts. I am very clear on the facts, and it's not about politics. Yes, let's not make it policy. Let's work together. But you are not working together with the other council members. So just please do not tell me that I'm not understanding, and please do not underestimate residents here.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. I think that the major disconnect here is that although so many towns have settled, I believe that this judge has been arbitrary and capricious in her handling of Englewood Cliffs, and you know, I think that as a similarly situated town with others, we're not being treated the same. And that's because we're not willing to cave in to a developer, which, you know, it shows you that there's a problem with the New Jersey justice system if everyone is somehow coerced to appeal, or rather to settle rather than to appeal. So that's not justice when you're actually being coerced, I guess that's a polite word, into settling with a developer that wants to do high density housing. You know, we want to comply with the law, as I always said, and we want to do it on our terms with a 100% affordable housing project in a part of town that makes sense to have a development so it's close to retail and restaurants, not stuck up in the middle of a highway. So I thank you for helping to shed some light on that, Ms. Lee, because certainly Ms. Sabari will never do that for us.
Oh, no, that's not correct, Mayor. And you know what? I'm not going to go back and forth with the resident, but I am available to speak with anybody outside of the meeting who wants to have a more detailed discussion with me, because I don't want to have everybody sitting here all night with me going back and forth with a resident. So anybody who'd like to speak to me, my number is on the borough website, and I'm more than happy to speak with you.
I saw that the next person up is Mr. or Mrs. Protopostolis family. I'm sorry, it's Mr.
Mayor, can I address one comment that Councilwoman Sabari made, which was that in 2015, I think the obligation was 9 units. I mean, just to be fair, yeah, 2015 might have lapsed. I think the mayor officially came on in 2016, at which point immediately Mr. Russell Perino, as well as Carol McMorrow, you know, started looking at this and started putting a plan together, a viable plan. So, I mean, to call out 1 year there,
that's not true.
Not getting the 9 units
Billy,
done, it's
not true.
sort of, it's not really fair, right? I mean,
actually,
you're talking about
council did
stop interrupting.
No, but what he's saying is not true.
what is not true, Councilwoman Sabari?
What's not true is it was the end of 2015 and 2016 when Mr. Kranjak took over. I said nothing was done until Normandy was denied their application, and that's when this all started.
That's not true.
That I don't believe is true, Ms. Sabari, from my understanding.
That's absolutely true. William, I'm sorry that, you know, go back and look at the minutes. That is absolutely the truth.
No, the planning board was working on this. Russell Perino, the chairman. So I'm sorry, there was somebody who I called on. He's there now. Mr. Yes, can you pronounce your name, sir?
Protosaltis. It's like.
Thank you. Protosaltis, yes.
Church singer.
Okay.
Anyway, so.
Just your address, please, sir.
I'm at 53 Stevens Drive. I'm here with my wife, Athena, and we were listening to today's comments earnestly, and when addressing Emily's comment, Councilwoman Sabari mentioned that there are options to avoid the court-mandated imposition of high-density housing in favor of more reasonable settlements that satisfy our affordable housing requirements. Can anyone on the council delineate any aspect of some of these alternative proposals in the settlement negotiations? As members of the public, I and many others feel that we are entitled to this information. Not only that, but how can we sit back, as Elias mentioned, and let these developers dictate our town's zoning laws with loopholes? It seems irrational.
So the only plan that I know of that we could speak to is the town-sponsored plan. What's happened is the Democratic Council majority is acting through Attorney Wunsch to do whatever they're doing, and we're not being included in that. So we get bits and pieces of information. You know, I am still a proponent of doing two things. One, appealing our number because it's too high for towns that are similarly situated to us, which have had lower numbers. And two, to build a 100% project. So if there's anybody else on council that wants to contribute to this discussion, please join in, but don't interrupt each other.
This is the part that's frustrating to the public, that there are negotiations that are happening and there are no proposals that are shared with the public. Let me just say that as a resident of Englewood Cliffs, we'd
That's a
like
great
there to be more transparency.
But that's a great point because Sabario, Aversa, and Song are not sharing with Councilman Wu, Farrow, and myself either. In fact, we're blocked from their communication. So, you know, we find out about things just kind of like shortly before you as a public find out about things. So
That's not true.
this is like kind of like the double standard playbook of this council majority. And then they get the attorney Wunsch involved. And you ask him a question. I asked him today, because this is not privileged or confidential. I said, so who's directing you to do anything? He said, the Lord is directing me. I go, all right, who other than the
Why do
good
you
Lord
figure
is
that's
directing?
not privileged?
That's not privileged.
It was in closed session.
Who other than the good
It
Lord
was
is
in closed
directing
session,
you?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so this is the kind of
why
nonsense.
nobody shares information with
Thank you. And you know what, Mr. Marinello? You're part of that nonsense because you're feeding into it. So I am very frustrated with the way this Democratic Council majority has handled things. Look, when we had the majority 2 years ago, we kept everyone informed. Carol McMorrow had multiple special meetings every month to review what was going on. And we would sit down and we would have a consensus and everyone would leave knowing.
Well, I guess it wasn't in the
no, let me finish. It's kind of like, you know, you don't get the information. And then when you ask the attorney something so basic, like who's directing you, he won't even give them up. So then I said, well, are you directing him or is he just doing this on his own? Because if he's doing it on his own, that's crazy because you're the elected officials. And
Mr.
if
Mayor,
you're telling me that
closed
he's not
session.
telling you, no, I'm not talking about anything substantive.
Everything you
I'm
just
talking
said
about-
was
I'm talking about procedure, and our residents have a right to know the nonsense that is going on.
Go
And I
ahead, you just
thank you,
violate,
sir.
continue to violate it. It's
And I thank you, sir, for
what got you
raising that
censured
issue.
3 times.
I would
Listen,
want you to know. So
Mario, you had a plan for 77 units.
right, and it could have been
Right.
expanded by another 30 or 40.
Let's explain that the court said that that was constitutionally non-compliant. Okay,
Now
that's
you're
what
playing around
happened.
now. Now you're playing. What actually happened was
No,
the
that's
court,
what
the court actually let us use the COA trust fund money to buy a building to execute our plan.
Did you ever go out to this town and explain to them that we had this issue and that there was an obligation and that you had a plan? No.
Absolutely. All through 2018, we worked on the plan. And in
not
January
give us
2019, the planning board actually approved the plan with the governing body agreeing
Planning
to.
board came out with one meeting, didn't advertise to the public. The public had no input as to your 77 unit plan, but that plan also obligated the residents. And it said in that plan that you had gone out to the residents and that they agreed that $13 million was going to be okay and that that was acceptable to them.
It's better
Now,
than the 100 million that you're sinking this town with.
But you did not go out to the residents.
We
not
were
go out-
following the process. The residents were fully
No.
informed of every point of that
They
process.
were not informed.
And I thank the residents.
That's not true. So you can make me out to be somebody who's.
So let me ask you a question. Why won't you support?
background.
Why won't you support building our own plan? Why won't you do that?
That's not the problem. That's not the problem, Mario.
Why won't you do that though?
I'm not saying I don't support that. There
But
is
then-
no, at this point, we have not come up with any type of a settlement that works as of yet. What I have said
That
is
still doesn't solve 800 Sylvan, Mario.
You don't need a settlement for it to work. You need to appeal
You do
everything
need
the
a
judge
settlement.
did,
Oh,
and you need to build your own project. And
you
then
can
when you get the
appeal.
right number,
But
you will
why
have
you
satisfied your obligation.
Mario, you know that they refused to give a number. Was that fair or not is a whole nother issue.
So
But
that's
that was the
appealable.
reality. That was the reality.
But that's
And
appealable.
Esther gave her number and the judge still didn't accept that. So the best case scenario, we would have to build 365 affordable units.
So just to
Right?
just
Is
to
it
shed some
that
light on
right?
this for the residents. Well, what happened was usually you would get a number from the court, and then you would have a period of time to satisfy that number.
But Mario, that's
Here,
that's
what the judge did, the judge gave us a number, and the same day she said that you didn't satisfy that number. So that's how bizarre it's become in the world of affordable housing. So that's why I wanted to appeal, because the judge needs to treat us fairly. Give us a number. If we fail to satisfy the number, then you could hit us. But you can't hit us at the same time that you give us that number. So Mr. Prosopoulos, that's kind of like where we're at. I will push always to get you as much information as the public can. I'm blocked a lot, but I will keep trying. Did you have any other questions?
Yeah, my wife has something to say.
Hi, my name is Malolis. Nice to meet everybody in town. The frustrating thing to us as residents is that even listening to what just has transpired, no one has described any aspect of any settlement. All we hear on the town meetings is the settlements, the settlements, the settlements. What are the details? We have elected all of you to represent us, and I believe that we are entitled to know what are the details. You have to listen to your constituents.
So you certainly are entitled, and so am I. And Ms. Sabari knows what the details are of what they're working on, but we don't get those.
That is not correct, Mario. There
are no. That's not correct. That we don't know.
We asked.
There are no details.
We asked for a document showing us what Wunsch was working on, and he had notes, but he refused to take a picture of his notes and send them to us tonight.
Very disappointing.
It is, and I'll keep pushing and I'll keep fighting.
Why didn't that answer?
I can't do this at my job, so I don't understand why it's acceptable for everybody else to do this at their job.
You're absolutely right.
Please work to get us.
The reason is they have the majority.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for being here. I saw
Ms. Chang.
Yeah, Ms. Chang.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're
can you
not
hear me?
using-
Yeah. Angela Chen, 22 Sarah Hill Lane. I just want to make a couple of points. I work in the financial industry. I just want to purely talk about facts, right? There's all sorts of accusations, everybody accused this and that. I'm tired of it. So I personally went on to the Borrow's website, and I found the 2018 100% affordable housing plan on the Borrow's website. Everybody can get access of that. And, I first of all, I want to say something that, I totally agreed with So Young and the gentleman before her that this is not anything related to racial or anything we're against low income or anything like that. This is really residents are fighting our rights to stop the developers try to take advantage of us, right? So the developers, when they purchase that piece of commercial real estate land,
I don't know.
they are purchasing.
I want to ask, how is 500? How many houses are there in Englewood Cliffs that 500 affordable housing makes sense?
Excuse me, can someone just mute? I looked at it, and I looked at the plan, and the plan was developed in 2018. And the fact is, the judge approved the town to purchase the piece of land. Listen, if the judge doesn't think that this plan will be workable, why she approved this plan, right? It doesn't really making any sense. So they approved the town and used the money to purchase that piece of land to develop that 77 units. However, when Sabari and Song joined the council and the Democrat took control, they completely abandoned this 100% affordable housing plan and went on to negotiate a settlement. So in the settlement meeting, I don't know Emily whether she is still online, but I want to make this clear to Emily. You are 18, you probably were not really understanding what's going on in the town. In July 10, 2019, last year, the council people actually give us a little bit details on the settlement last year. And that settlement only provides 80 units of affordable housing. So 77 versus 80, they claim that, okay, 77 will not satisfy the judge's requirement. What make them believe that the 80 units will satisfy the judge, right? So there's all sorts of logic behind that. I just don't buy that, Sabari is saying that we have to do settlement because that's the best for the town. I don't buy it. And, last council meeting, Sabari also made a comment. She's saying that, if we take that 77 unit plan, we're making the entire town overlay zone. What is overlay zone? Overlay zone is, the zoning allowing for both residential and commercial. So I was like, really, is that true? So I went on to the borough's website and I found the plan and I read it. And it never say that the overlay zone will be the entire town. In the fact, the 3 overlay zone for potential future, development of affordable housing is, one is on Hudson Terrace. The second one is on East Palisade. The third one is on Sylvan Avenue, but it's south of Van Nostrand. So it's very small portion of Sylvan Avenue. It's not like the corporate campus, like 800 Sylvan, or the next neighbor, 1000 Sylvan, which also is vacant right now. So, I believe that, looking at the facts, right? I just want to look at by myself. So I don't trust you you claim that you represent my interests, but I don't see that. I purely believe this is just a something that someone is trying to do to benefit the developers, the greedy developers, and try to push the residents to settle, to accept this. So this is so wrong. And also with whatever the RDP number, I just want to make it clear that, the 500 units is nothing, no other towns are having this kind of percentage. We have 1,800 units and you're adding another 500. That is not, fair share housing, right? We're getting our fair share. It's not unfair share. Right? So we're fighting for our own rights. We're not racist. We welcome everybody, right? So, this is, we need to support more. To be honest, I think another thing we should to do is support the Black business around the town. I personally, I saw someone, there's an ice cream car. The gentleman driving the ice cream car, he's an African American. And every time he comes to my door, I rush to get ice cream for the kids because, with the COVID situation, I really think those small businesses, especially with minority, we should support them, right? So these are the things that we can do to make the community better. And, giving the masks to our residents, that's everything we do to make this community better, not trying to destroy this town. This is all I want to say, everything needs to be based on facts. And the last thing I want to make it clear is whatever settlement deal you think is good for us, please share with us first. We're all, we have lawyers, we have people working in the Wall Street, we have, accountants, we have all sorts of professionals. If you believe that's the best for us, let us look at it. Not hiding it. I personally asked in the council meeting, are you guys working on a settlement deal? I think in the June meeting, sometime around there, July meeting. And, nobody actually answered me. And I think Gloria always referring to the attorney saying, attorney, can we disclose this or not? I mean, every time I hear it's like closed session. I get it. You discuss everything closed session, but this this is related to my interests. Everybody in the town deserves to have the information, and we then make a judgment. So please, please do not think that, you know, you are doing the best for us. That's not your call, that's our call. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Mr. Perino had his hand up.
So did David for a half hour.
Thank you, Mayor. Russell Perino, 220 Fairview Avenue. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Most of the people on this call probably know who I am, but for those that don't, I'm the current chairman of the Englewood Cliffs Planning Board. First, I'm going to just make a public service announcement. For those that are interested in following the ongoing proceedings regarding affordable housing, there's going to be hearings commencing on September 15th of this year in Hackensack, whereby the developer of 800 Sylvan Avenue will be presenting their site plan application for hearings to be conducted in Hackensack, but with participation by members of the public via Zoom. So the members of the board will be invited to the hearings, but I think the members of the public will be restricted to Zoom only access, and you will have the right to speak at those hearings. It will start on September 15th, run on consecutive days. We're not sure how many days it will go, but it will be consecutive starting on the 15th. And if you go on the borough website, I think today it was posted, if you go to the home page on the borough website and you look at news and announcements on the 800 Sylvan Avenue, you click on that drop-down menu and it'll bring you to the link, which should allow you to get into the court system's website, and then you can pick and choose, you know, the hearing that you want to listen or watch. So I urge any residents who are interested in seeing what's going on to participate, as any member of the public is welcome to do so. Secondly, I'd like to make a few statements and comments. Mr. Councilman Wu, you know, spoke about what happened in a few years past, 2015, 16, and Councilperson Sabari chimed in that it's not true, et cetera, et cetera. And I was intrinsically involved in the formation of the plan that was indeed adopted in January of 2019. I became a member of the planning board in January of 2016. And within 2 weeks of being sworn in as an alternate to that board, we had a hearing on the 9-unit affordable housing plan that you heard mentioned. And I was one of only a couple of appointees of Mario Kranjak that first year. The rest of them were holdovers from the Parisi administration. And I got up at that meeting. You can check the minutes of the January, it was the last week in January's meeting of 2016. And I got up and said, well, I think we need to adopt this plan. And if there's going to be changes in the future, well, so be it. What happened was the attorney Michael Cates, who was an appointee of the Parisi Planning Board, had suggested that we not vote on that plan in January of 2016. And I got up, and it's on the minutes of the meeting, and said why. And I suggested that we indeed vote to adopt it and then make revisions to it later. I was shut down, that it was not appropriate and there are reasons why it should be done at a later date. Now, one can surmise or speculate as to why that decision was made. I was overruled because there weren't the votes to overrule it. So they overruled me. And every time I brought up the issue of affordable housing in committee meetings during that year, I was again shut down by Michael Cates. There were other members that were there that are still members of the planning board that are aware. And one should wonder why Michael Cates would have kept kicking that can down the road, even though he knew that we had affordable housing obligations that should have been met and should have been met promptly. So Mario Kranjak had taken control of the mayor and council in January of 2016 as well. So you could add two and two together if you like, as to why that process was halted. So flash forward to 2017, Normandy Real Estate filed to intervene in our affordable housing litigation, and I was tasked and volunteered my time along with Councilwoman. I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise. Hello, am I being heard?
McMorrow.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's Councilwoman McMorrow working on not just the affordable housing plan, but all the components to it. So we spent a good year in formulating that plan that it was adopted by the planning board in January of 2019 and endorsed by the governing body several weeks later. So that's the first thing that I wish to clarify, that I spoke up in 2016, why aren't we moving forward with the affordable housing plan? And I was shut down time and time again. So in terms of our not being compliant, for those that haven't followed this closely, there's the term called immunity. The borough of Englewood Cliffs had immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits that we are now faced with, starting in, I guess it was July of 2015. And that immunity was continued through the end of 2018 and through a portion of 2019. But what happened was, when the 77-unit plan was adopted by the incoming Democratic administration, 6 or 7 months went by where they were negotiating with Normandy and assured everybody that they were going to settle this case. When the Democratic administration reversed course again and voted to continue with litigation, the judge wasn't going to have it, and she pulled our immunity. And what that means is we lost immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits. Okay, so that's what happened. And much of, if not most of the bad news that's happened since then is as a result of losing our immunity. All right, so anyone that says anything differently, and I'm sure people will get up after me and say that that's not the case, it is the case. The special master, Mary Beth Lonigan, who was appointed by the court to oversee our affordable housing obligations, wrote a report, several reports. And even she stated that our plan, our 77-unit plan, although it was deficient in terms of numbers, the borough should have the right to cure the shortfall in the units between 77 and what the judge ruled. The judge had the right and the ability to supersede the special master. It's her right to do so because we had lost our immunity. And that's why it was deemed to be constitutionally compliant that we weren't allowed to increase either the size of that plan or add additional plans to it. We lost that opportunity because we lost our immunity. That's what a leader does. So I just want to correct the record, and I'll ask the council. I think what you should be working on is how are you going to regain immunity of the borough? Because with that, the borough would have the right to choose its own destiny. And that's what would have happened if we didn't lose our immunity back in 2019. So if any members of the council would like to comment on if you have the wherewithal to regain our immunity so that we can choose our destiny or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perino. Appreciate the work that you do on the planning board, the work that you did in the past, and also the frustration that you probably had in 2016 by not having the planning board react to what you were asking them to do. Is there anyone on council that wants to respond to Mr. Perino? If not, I saw Ms. McMorrow had her hand up. She's next.
You're never going to get picked, David.
Can you hear me now, Mayor?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Just so that you know, I was on the other, during the caucus meeting. I was on the call, and I know I heard you keep asking me through the Zoom for whatever reason, my audio, I don't know if it was on your end, if Ms. Duffy was not unmuting me.
You were unmuted.
Okay, but Ms. Duffy, and you are, have been charged with running this meeting right now. Unfortunately, you did not ask the public who was on the telephone during your caucus. So anybody that was on hold was denied their right to speak at that caucus meeting. And I called as soon as I saw that my audio was not working on the Zoom, and you did not allow me to speak. So if you are going to be charged with running a meeting, then please do not violate people's rights.
Mrs. McMorrow, you were unmuted.
Did you, Ms. Duffy, did you hear what I just said?
There were two issues. There were two issues. The first issue was the muting, and the second issue was people on the phone call not being asked.
Mr. Mayor, that's your job as the chair of the meeting to ask that.
I don't have control of.
Yes,
the
you have
Zoom.
control of your
No,
ability to speak.
so now I have control. Oh, interesting.
You are the chair of the meeting. You've been chairing the meeting all night long with your long speeches and
Yeah.
what have you.
Yeah,
You
thank
could
you,
have
Mr.
said that. You didn't
Marinello.
do it. You do it at every other meeting.
Mr. Marinello, the borough clerk is in charge of Zoom here. You made her that.
That's not how that works.
And you violated my rights when you did it. Had I been left in charge, we wouldn't have any problem.
No, that's not true.
All night, Mario.
That's incorrect.
I really don't want to get into a debate.
Yes, that's a good idea. Let's just,
Sorry,
what you have to say.
have been rude to all the residents while I've been listening. Please refrain yourself. Respectful.
I'm actually saying that we should listen to what you have to say, Mr.
Apology to all the residents, including myself, for not allowing us to speak at the caucus would be appreciated. Do not selectively.
I have nothing to do with that.
Listen, I have to say something. I knew this was going to happen with Mrs. McMorrow. In fact, when she was on and she wasn't able to speak, I actually took a picture to show that she was unmuted. Now, perhaps there was a technological problem and her voice wasn't coming through, but I have a picture when she was on caucus, a different icon than what she is now, and it shows that she was unmuted.
Okay, send me that picture. Go ahead, Ms. McMorrow.
Absolutely.
What I said was, and if you need my phone records to show that I called in, Mayor, which is really ridiculous.
Yeah.
I said I called in on the phone and I tried to get through. Someone asked, Ms. Duffy, did you ask the public on the phone?
I don't ask the public, it's the mayor that does.
You're supposed to ask individuals on the phone. It doesn't matter what's said on the Zoom. I understand that did not work on the Zoom. I called on the phone. You did not say on the phone, is there anyone on the phone call? Every meeting you did that. It was not.
I don't.
That's all I'm saying. Stop blaming each other. You should have asked who was on the phone, and I'm going to move on. Stop
Okay.
blaming each other.
Terrific.
Ms. McMorrow, could you just speak a little louder? I'm having trouble hearing.
As for, I have a couple of things, Mayor, that I wanted to ask this at the caucus, but I'll ask it right now. As for the references that were made of taking your rights away as mayor, I believe that they passed it in the resolution at the last meeting, saying that they awarded that responsibility to the administrator. Am I reading that correct, Mr. Marinello? Hello?
Joe, please unmute.
The resolution says that the Zoom shall be controlled by the clerk.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's what I thought I read. But we're a borough form of government, and state law requires that the following actions are accomplished by ordinance, which would cover council rules of procedure. A resolution does not supersede an ordinance. And if you wanted to give that responsibility to the administrator, you would have had to have done that by ordinance, sir. And that I worked under many different borough attorneys. One of them, Carter Karsten, everyone knows who he is and was, and he was respected on both sides. And he had always said, It was ordinance that rules any of those types of actions that you're trying to change what you did. So the resolution is worthless because ordinance supersedes that. That's number one. So the mayor, you are violating his rights right now because
Yeah,
that.
we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one, Carol.
Okay, well, I guess I'm sure somebody else can look at it. That's number one. Number two, as to the clerk's statements earlier about Miss Gill, and I also commend her for coming forward as a teenager and having the courage to speak up, and encourage her as she gets older to continue in that. It's the borough administrator's responsibilities, regardless of whatever. And I'm not saying what happened between her and the mayor. I'm not here, I was not there. But what I do know is what's in our borough code, as Miss Duffy should know. Okay? Number one, it states, duties of the borough administrator shall be such that they shall not infringe on duties, rights, and powers of other borough officials designated by statute or borough ordinance. Okay, that's number one. Number two, it also states that under clerk, it shall be the duty of the borough clerk to examine all bills of claims submitted for payment to ascertain if proper administrative procedures have been followed. And even if Ms. Duffy thought that it was wrong, but the mayor was telling her to send it out and that's why she did it, she had a responsibility and she holds a license. And she should have, if she thought something was being done incorrectly, she should have reported it to the proper authority and not infringed on Miss Gill's rights, because she had an obligation under her responsibilities to the borough to not do that to Miss Gill. So let's just, everybody up there, take responsibility. Duffy, you owe Miss Gill an apology as well for what you did, and I have not heard that yet.
Let me just step in for 1 second.
I don't need
The statute that the ordinance that you read
Let the resident
is
finish.
clear. She's,
Let the
I'm
resident
addressing
finish.
what she said.
Marinello, let the resident finish.
No,
I thought she was finished.
Let the
Go ahead.
resident finish.
Finished, Mr. Marinello, and I'm not here to debate it with you because there's many things I don't agree with you as a matter of law.
But we do both know how to read the English language.
Let the resident finish. Apparently you don't.
Well, I didn't insult you, so please don't insult me, sir. And your behavior, calling him despicable, and the other words that you did, as far as I'm concerned, you've got a conflict and should not be able to rule on anything having to do with the mayor, because your animus towards him has jaded you into being able to correctly give legal opinions, okay? So that's that. The next thing I want to talk about, Mayor, is affordable housing. And it saddens me to hear the residents get up every meeting and hear the mistruths that are being spewed by certain members of this council. What I cannot understand, okay, is Gloria, Ed, you sat with me in 2012, okay, on the council. We were not appropriately updated. At least I was not, okay? I'm gonna put that on the record right now. I was not appropriately updated as to whatever went on with affordable housing. I can't speak for whether you two did or not, but we were on the council together in 2012. When we came back on in 2016, and I'm gonna piggyback on what Mr. Perino said, I was confused when I saw Michael Case delay that vote. At the time, I did not understand why he was doing that. Now it makes perfect sense to me why he was doing that, okay? Clearly, there were other reasons and situations that appeared to have been working behind the scenes. His recommendation, and this is all at a public meeting, his recommendation was for the special master to do drive-arounds in the town of Englewood Cliffs, to familiarize herself with the town and the vacant properties. And we did that. I worked very closely with Mary Beth Lonigan. I have respect for her. Her schedule, unfortunately, did not permit our meetings until almost the end of the year. So a lot of time was lost there at no fault. Had I been able to testify or give documents in, that would have all went into the record. But unfortunately, the members on council, for whatever reason, under the direction of Albert Wunsch, did not allow almost all of my documents or work on affordable housing to be submitted. Ms. Sabari, you keep telling everyone that they don't understand what's going on. What you keep forgetting is that Mr. Perino and I do understand. And Mr. Perino and I were there. So you can continually put your spin on whatever you're trying to put your spin on. But we know the facts. And we were at meetings with these individuals that you were not at. So we know things that you still don't know because you refused to meet with us. Now, you'll meet with Emily Gill, but you won't meet with Russ Perino or myself. Why is that, Ms. Sabari? Why do you refuse to take the information that we have and had to have used it to the benefit of this borough to assist in getting the job done appropriately, and so that we could have more efficiently and quickly satisfied our affordable housing obligations? I'd like an answer from you, Ms. Sabari, why you refused to meet with us. Hello?
Oh, do you want me to speak now?
I'm asking a direct question to you.
Is it okay now if I give you my opinion?
So the pending question is,
No,
why
I
did you
know,
refuse to meet
Mario,
with McLaren?
Mario, I know what the pending question is.
I just want to know why.
My question is to you, okay? My question is to you, that now that we have a developer in town, after he was denied his corporate application, and you knowing full well what happens in affordable housing when a developer is offering up their land to accommodate our affordable housing obligation. You know what happens, Carol, better than anybody. How would you handle it? How would you handle it?
Asking you to answer my question. Why have you refused years with my and Russell Perino to have helped you in solving the situation that this could have been solved?
I'm telling you again, I offered to meet with you prior to my becoming a council member, and you refused, and you said you didn't need any help. Well, look where that got us. Again, Carol, with all respect, I am sure you did everything possible in the scenario that you were confronted with. Things changed. We had a developer who offered up their land. So now we have vacant land that we didn't have before. And now we had to address that. And I'm sorry if you disagree with me and you're so hung up on why I didn't meet with you. There are a lot of reasons why I didn't meet with you. And I'm not going to discuss that tonight on this Zoom call because that just would not be appropriate. So I'm not going to do that. So again, with all respect, if you were in my situation and you had a developer with vacant land and it was giving that up to help us meet our affordable housing obligation, how would you deal with it? We're here because it wasn't dealt with and it's not a commercial property anymore. And it is a property that has offered themselves up for residential housing, high density residential housing. What would you like me to do? This was what was handed to me by your administration. So stop being so nasty to me.
Nasty. I can't get a word in edgewise.
You asked my opinion. I gave it to you.
Mr. Morrow, I can't hear you. Can you speak louder?
I actually asked a question about why you did not want our help, which is a totally different thing. But let me just be clear, Ms. Sabari, okay? When you came to me to speak to me, you were not an elected official, and I was bound to not be able to speak to you. After you won, I was able to speak to you. And we wanted to speak to you, but you refused to talk to us. That's
No, actually, you stepped down from the council. You were no longer in charge. Do you remember?
I'm not going to stand here and allow you to,
Sorry, reality is reality.
I think the resident is asking, why wouldn't you want to meet with the person who was the point person before you? Try to transition. Let me finish.
Thanks for asking the question for her, Mario. That's real good.
She wanted to know why you refused to meet with
You wrote
her
the question for her.
in an orderly transition.
Okay, and why would Billy Wu refuse to be on the committee for affordable housing? Come on, we could go back and forth now. Let's just move forward and figure out how we're going to do the right.
People, it's almost 11 o'clock. There are other residents that want to speak. Can we just move forward? Thank you, Ms. McMorrow.
I'm sorry,
We spoke
Mr.
long enough.
Aversa, if you're too
Appreciate
busy, but Ms. McMorrow had a question. It wasn't answered. Did you have anything else, Ms. McMorrow?
I did answer it.
Thank you.
Ms. McMorrow, did you have anything else?
I do, if they would stop interrupting and political spins.
There are a lot of people on who'd like to speak.
Now, there are a lot of people that want to speak. Can we let someone else speak?
Please let Ms. McMorrow finish. Ms. McMorrow, we're having trouble hearing you, though. Can you stand closer to your microphone, please?
Okay, can you hear me better now?
A little better. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't want to, okay. All I was trying to get through for the residents, Mayor, is that we had a plan, and the council in January of 2019 had an obligation to continue that plan. It's in the minutes of January 2019. I'm not going to read them verbatim to not violate anything, but they know what Jeff Serenian wrote recommending that they do, and they did not do what Jeff Serenian told them to do. And it was the same thing that Jeff Serenian.
That's not true.
Yes.
That's not true.
Okay, you're interrupting me again.
No, that's what you do, though. You throw stuff out there and say, I'm not going to say, and I can't say. But the reality is that you know what it is, but you leave it out there for people to
Please
try
let
to
the
figure
resident
out
finish.
what you're saying.
Please let the resident finish.
Ms. Sabari, you are lying to the public.
I am not lying to anybody.
Yes, you are lying.
Okay. Ms. McMorrow, are you done now, please?
No, I'm going to finish this statement, Ed, because you're
Please
aware.
let the resident finish.
You're aware of all of this, trying to trick the public into believing a spin that is not true. We had a plan. There was a plan. You didn't continue on that plan, and that is why we are in the position we are now, number one. Number two, the last meeting that I attended with Russell Perino down in South Jersey, Kevin Walsh was sitting to the right of me, and I reported to the members that were there on council what was said, and you knew what was said, and you should have fought, and you didn't fight for this town, and you rolled over and you made a deal, God knows why. But don't put a different spin on what happened here. And if
So what was said? What was said, Carol? What was said? What don't I know about? What was said? If you had something that affected this town like you say you had, why didn't you open your mouth? It never stopped you before. Why did you keep your mouth shut? If you thought you knew something that would change the direction and I didn't want to listen to you, why didn't you open your mouth? It never stopped you before.
At every meeting like you always do.
You knew, and they should have reported it to you. You refused to meet with us. Okay, so shame on them for not reporting it to you. What can I tell you? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's convenient. Thank you.
Ms.
Thank you.
McMorrow, are you finished now?
I think there are a lot of other people who want to speak.
Okay. Mr. Telzer,
What they do is just insult people to try and intimidate them to back down and not speak. And
that's not true.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
yeah,
Thank you, Carol.
Ms. McMorrow, thank you for pointing that out. It's very
Good
true.
luck, David.
Mr. Telzer, I saw you had your hand up, sir.
Yes, Michael Telzer, homeowner, 9 Churchill Road. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, a few things. I took a few notes, and these things might be, I see them as interrelated. The stigma-free, the anti-racism training, and the affordable housing, 3 subjects. I just want to say a little bit about what I feel about them. The stigma-free is a moronic name. It is so moronic, in my opinion, and the branding is so poor that I have little faith in an advocacy organization that can't brand. You know, let's say it was about Jews, for example. And we put up signs all over the county, stigma-free.
That Roma and that other one wanted him to plead guilty.
Can you hear me? Let's say, it was about Jews and we put up signs all over the county, stigma-free. In other words, there's no stigma against Jews. It would be an atrocity to demean people like that. And I just think stigma-free should change their name to Coalition for the Mentally Ill or something, or partnership or something like that.
He's right.
That kind of,
He's right. Give me a little massage. He's right.
I'll massage you. I'll massage you if you turn your mute off.
am I still being heard?
What happened?
Yeah, I think Lizette is.
Miss Valori wants a massage.
She's selectively unmuting people.
Mayor, please don't start.
The whole screen is
I'm not-
muted except
I'm
this.
not-
Better than being selectively kicked out of a meeting.
Well,
I'm
you
not-
deserve that.
Unmuting anyone.
Am I still speaking?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Tugler, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's so easy.
So the name I think is an atrocity, and I think if the town is going to embrace something, which it did, it might want to put that info in there, because it's not rocket science that when you call something a stigma and call it stigma-free, that it implies there was a reason to stigmatize. Okay, the next thing is on the anti-racism suggestion that I heard from, I believe her name is Emily. I don't recall the last name.
Yeah.
Gill? Okay. Ms. Gill asked if we're going to institute that, and it's most of it, especially what is in the headlines, is unproven and I think unnecessary in a diverse town. It implies that we are racist.
Yes.
I don't live here. I own a home here, so for full disclosure, but I grew up here, and I don't like spending money, which it will cost as a taxpayer, on things that are unproven. And like Robin DeAngelo, I believe her name is, she makes $20,000 a seminar on anti-racism. So I say, let's be careful, speaking of branding, that we not to brand everything as racist. And going to affordable housing. 584 units was the number that was put out tonight. Out of 18, there's about 1,800 odd homes, let's say. So 1,800 residences currently, and adding 584. And with all due respect to all of you, you're acting like it's almost a wonderful thing for affordable housing. I have no objection in affordable housing all over the United States, but are you kidding me in terms of what is being imposed on us? What's being imposed on us is basically to build 584 units on a parking lot. 584 new units in a town of 1,800 residences, and how many more are coming in 2025? So this idea that we must love affordable housing, well, no, it's not about affordable housing. First and foremost, it's about changing the character of this town, and the idea that this is about affordable housing at this point is insane. And also, I want to say, a racket can be made out of all three of the aforementioned things that I brought up: the stigma-free, the anti-racism training, and affordable housing. This is New Jersey. Of course, it's a racket, and of course, loads of people are going to make money, and developers have loads of interest and loads of influence. I also want to say on that subject that older taxpayers who bought their homes at a lower tax rate understood that they wanted a quality education for their children in high school, and all these things were built into the price of the towns. So it's not a bunch of millionaires and billionaires living in boroughs, as the press would have it made out to be. The affordable housing may not be affordable for those people that have to pay taxes. Older residents or older residents that bought their home 20, 30 years ago, And we're hoping on keeping the taxes somewhat low. So the idea that it's affordable and we should welcome it, well, yeah, we should welcome it, but we should welcome it and not forget about the fact that affordable housing costs money to someone. And it may very well send a bunch of Englewood Cliffs residents to Florida where they can afford the taxes so that affordable housing can be built here. And I wanted to say about Ms. Gill's message that I applaud her for using her constitutional rights to speak out. That, however, her message, I don't want to be assumed as either sound or representing the homeowners. And I think that covers it. I'm curious as to any input that the mayor and council might have, as all of you seem tonight to be very progressive in a way that I don't think represents the taxpayers. And we're not racist here. And the implication that we are, and to be assumed racist in such a diverse community, and my family's been here since 1960. I've seen the changes over time. And it's one group comes, one immigrant group, and works hard and kills themselves to get here, to stay here. Then they move out or they pass away, and a new group comes in. And anybody's welcome to live here. So I really don't get the new attitude tonight as if we're going to accept that we're racist and accept that we don't want poor people here. And by the way, if you go back to Mount Laurel, and then I'll conclude. Mount Laurel may have been good for Mount Laurel, but Englewood Cliffs was built out of the woods. We didn't displace any poor people for high taxables. And in addition, what's my second thought on that? There are no factory workers that need housing in Englewood Cliffs. If you look at Mount Laurel, part of the decision was that factory workers have to commute for miles and miles away to get to their place of work. Well, I don't see any factory workers in Englewood Cliffs. I could be wrong. If there's a factory, somebody might want to clue me in. So that's about it for tonight.
Well, thank you, Mr. Towser. Mr. Di Gregorio, I see your hand up.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Dave Di Gregorio, 165 Charlotte Place. Some people had said it's a national story, and Emily, first of all, greetings to you and your family. It was an international story. It appeared in a French newspaper, German newspaper, Chinese newspaper. So congratulations, great work calling attention to this. And it, I think, makes Englewood Cliffs proud. It's something that Englewood Cliffs can hang its hat on, having an activist like you amongst us. I'd like to remind Russ that it was his vote denying Normandy the developing clean corporate that caused us to lose immunity. And I'd also like to remind our mayor, it seems like since this took place, everyone is shifting their positions. On July 10th, 2019, at the upper school in the gymnasium, you had about 200 residents there, 300 residents, very angry. And I actually queued it up here. I won't play it, but you basically asked people to raise their hand if they wanted affordable housing at 800 Sylvan. And I was the only one who raised my hand, and you pointed that out, and you got a little chuckle from the audience. So don't change your tune now.
I'm not. I will oppose any residential housing at 800 Sylvan. I oppose any settlement with Normandy, and I am in favor of 100% affordable housing. You in favor of appealing. So I just want to set you right.
Do you want me to play the video where you actually said there's one person here in the audience that is for having residential housing at 800 Sylvan?
That was you.
And you pointed to me, and the whole crowd chuckled.
That was you, because I thought you were out of your mind when you did that.
Well, I'm not out of my mind. And I think that you're shifting your position now.
No, I'm not. I still oppose any residential housing at 800 Sylvan. Just to be clear.
Come on,
I'll
jump
repeat
in.
it
Tell him
for
not to
you.
interrupt.
I still oppose
Okay.
any residential
Mario.
housing at 800
Okay.
Sylvan. Understood?
The fact that he's getting emotional is
No,
is
absolutely
telling.
not.
And,
The fact that
and
you're
I
lying
will,
is the
and I will
problem.
tell you, let me finish. You had your turn. You had plenty of time to talk. So I'm going to continue. So I think one of the reasons why we are in a position that we're in is because we have a leader, and with all due respect, Mario, we do agree on some things, but you do tend to get very defensive and emotional. I think that the letter that went to Emily, that was a decision made out of emotion, anger, not logic. Number two, let me finish.
Not true.
Taking the sign off, or taking Mayor Parisi's name off the building. Another decision made out of emotion,
Rooted
not
in law.
logic.
Rooted in
Moving
law.
Ms.
Rooted in law.
Moving Ms. Plocker's commemorative stone, Island Plocker's commemorative stone. It was made out of emotion, not logic. Your
Rooted in
term-
law. It was rooted in law.
Excuse me. You know what? The
No,
reason
it was
why you
rooted in
can't,
law.
the reason why you can't stop and listen and keep quiet is because deeply you know I'm right, and it's your ego
No,
that is
absolutely.
being
Every
right now.
decision was made rooted in law.
Stop.
I
Stop.
follow
Let
the
me
rules
talk.
of law.
Excuse me. Your emotions, your terminology of fair share housing as a socialist scheme did not help our situation. I believe that this town should have a good quantity, a fair quantity of well-built housing. You have been against it. You
We
have
agree
railed
on
against it.
quality.
You have gotten other people angry at us. You have caused a very bad reputation, and you've made our town the laughingstock, as evidenced by your latest action by sending out a letter to Miss Gill, to Emily Gill, unilaterally, without consulting anybody.
We
And
actually
if you're
agree
not,
on,
if you're, excuse me, if you're
agree.
not man enough, excuse me, you need to admit it, and you need to say, and repeat after me, Emily, I was wrong to send the letter out, and say it publicly, please.
I did
You would
apologize
be-
to Emily, and I don't repeat anything that you would ever say to me. I am not your puppet. If you have something productive to say it. But I do agree with you that anything that gets built needs to be of quality construction. I am not a favor of fire traps, which have.
I agree with you.
unfortunately-
We
which have
agree.
overwhelmed- Right, we agree on that because New Jersey construction code is deficient when it comes to construction.
Let's work on that together. Let's work on that. I totally agree
I
with
think we
you
could
there.
work on that together, and I look forward to doing that. I will not agree with you when you told us about 2 years ago when you wanted to replace our streets with cobblestones. I don't think that'll work. But
No, excuse me, you're bending. No, let me finish. Now, here's a perfect example. I'm glad you brought up the cobblestones. Our upper school has a little piece of pavement. They did a beautiful job on the parking lot. The road was paved. Right in between is a little piece of pavement. Now, you want to beautify the school? You just said before you're working with the schools. Why don't we put a nice strip of cobblestones right there? People would feel like they're coming into a private school.
Sorry,
The
so that's
whole,
right off of
that
Charlotte.
would beautify the whole town. So another thing that I'm critical of, and I'm critical of everyone on this, is we're a one-horse pony or a one-horse show. This show, this Zoom show tonight, is about one thing. It's about yelling at each other, and it's about affordable housing. There's a million other things that we could do in this town to make this town rock. And sustainability. There's beautification.
So
There's
let's talk about that
all kinds of stuff.
sustainability. I do listen to you, Mr. DiGregorio. In the past, you said that you wanted every house to have their own composting, right?
Yes, that's a great idea. Let's work on it.
That's what you said. Okay, and then you.
No, well, not every, I wouldn't, it's gotta be voluntary. And if we can create incentives for that, that's great.
So-
Then we're going to,
I'm sorry, just so I'm clear, the cobblestones are off of Charlotte leading into the school?
correct. You would have about maybe 30 feet, 40 feet, because there are potholes there now. So why pave it over? Let's make it more beautiful. So I think that would be wonderful to do. And I think there's a lot of other things and a lot of other ideas. Look, I'm critical of you with the hopes that you're going to listen, and you can be critical of me and I'll listen. And let's do something in this town other than argue, and let's listen to Emily and the young people, and let's give them voice, more voice, and let's let this town rock and set the example for all other towns in Bergen County. We're small enough, we're nimble enough.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see on the bottom left corner, it just says hi. I'm not sure who that is. The hands are up. The hand is now down. Mrs. O'Shea, I see your hand.
Me unmute myself. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I had the little hands up down there, but I don't think.
Thank you. I didn't
that
realize
was
that.
me. I've been making notes of all these different things going through this meeting. I hope I get to say it all. There was some comments made about bills prior, and the council has been saying that you unilaterally sent the bill to Ms. Gill without their approval. And I want to know, have they ever approved a bill to any of the other groups that have to be billed for services in the town? Or they didn't care about those and only care about this one?
So not to my knowledge, and the
So-
reason why I sent the bill out is that usually the police department would send a bill. And in this instance, because the organization is an anti-police organization, I just wanted to kind of deflect and diffuse that situation by sending the bill out myself. So
Okay.
that's why I sent it out and not the police department itself.
Right, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that the council has never approved any other bill in the past either.
No,
So
they
the
have.
fact- So this is not
And the
an
mayor has never
one
sent
out
out a bill in the past.
Who's talking?
The mayor has never sent out a bill in the past.
I'm not talking about the mayor. I'm talking about, has the council ever approved a bill for services previously? Because
No,
you're all going up and down the thing there about not approving it. You've never approved a bill in the past at all. So it's
No.
not something
Well, not
unusual.
that the
And the
mayor's
mayor
ever
has
sent out
never
by
sent
himself.
out a bill in the past.
Right,
Right,
but I
but-
think I just explained why I did it.
But nobody has approved a bill to be sent to anybody in the past, okay? Now,
No one has been
regard-
stupid enough to do that, Mary, in all honesty.
pardon me? Pardon
No
me?
one's been stupid enough to do that, in all
I'm not
honesty.
talking that anybody is stupid, Ed. I'm
Well,
saying that
but
no,
you're
you,
saying,
the
has it ever been
council,
done?
the
And I'm telling
council
you.
has never approved a bill for services in the past, period. So
We've
this
never-
is not different,
Right,
okay?
that's never
Now,
come up, though. There's never
the
been a
mayor
bill
has
for those
never
services in the
sent it out
past.
unilaterally.
Never, ever in the history of the town. That's never happened.
I think we
nobody,
explained
other
why
people
that
have paid for services.
Not
Okay,
those.
Now, affordable, people are talking about affordable housing. Affordable housing is exactly what it is. It's for people of lower to moderate income to find suitable housing. It's not a racial thing. You do not get the housing because of what color you are, whether you're black, brown, yellow, red, white, something in between. It doesn't matter. It's based on your income. Okay, that's what it's called, affordable housing. So it's not racial. All right. Now, many towns have affordable housing, and that affordable housing is for seniors who cannot afford to live on their own anymore. Some of the affordable housing is for veterans, disabled or otherwise, that cannot afford housing. So those are all things for affordable housing. Now, Emily Gill talks about Englewood Cliffs being more welcoming. Emily Gill's parents rented a house in Englewood Cliffs for a while before they purchased a house in Englewood Cliffs, which was only within the past recent time that they purchased a house. So apparently Englewood Cliffs was welcoming to them, that they decided to move and purchase and invest in the property in Englewood Cliffs. They could have bought a house in any other town, in a town that had more diversity. They could have bought in Teaneck. They could have bought in Leonia. They
Are
could
you
have
really
bought in
doing this?
Englewood. They could have bought anywhere else. They did not have to buy in Englewood Cliffs, but Englewood Cliffs apparently felt welcoming to them, so they bought their home in Englewood Cliffs. Now, Debbie Sabari, you were at the BLM picket march, and I watched the video that the Bergen Record had, and
When
I
was
was so
I there? When was I there?
at the BLM march
Yeah, when?
at the Borough Hall
When?
this last week.
Yes, I was there.
I know, I saw you there. And I saw your daughter and daughter of somebody there and your step-granddaughter. And I thought it outrageous that you would be encouraging hate in an 8 or 10-year-old to carry a sign to say, Kranjak is a bully. I thought you were teaching this young child a very bad state of
I'm sorry you feel
teach
that
her
way.
something. You shouldn't be teaching a child
Actually,
hate.
where
Children
were you?
are a
Where
clean
were you,
slate,
Mary?
and you're teaching this child
Where
hate.
were you?
You're teaching her hate.
No, I was teaching.
I think that you should take a lesson from your own self and not teach hate, because you just attacked my parents and I'm not okay with that.
Jesus Christ, Mary. I said your parents must have felt that this town was welcoming and they
Mary,
chose
your
to
supporters.
purchase the house here.
Honestly,
Right?
you really
Now,
got a
BLM and
quick-
other people should not be allowed to come in on my time.
Please,
Sorry, Emily, I didn't
please-
come in on
please-
your time.
Please respect the residents' right to speak, okay?
Okay.
And Lizette, I want
Black
you to
Lives-
control the Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Black Lives Matter, BLM, is an anti-police movement, okay? Throughout the country, BLM marches are anti-police, all right? And previously, our Democrats
Good.
have been very pro-police, and it's contradictory that now they're supporting BLM, all right? My granddaughter marched with BLM in Ridgewood, so she believed it, and that's what she followed, but she didn't cause trouble for the town. Okay? Now, I bought my house in 1966 in Englewood Cliffs for $26,000, all right? $26,000, and my yearly taxes were $216 a year, all right? Okay, that was not considered high living or expensive, all right? Now, David DeGorio said Russ caused us to lose immunity. Immunity was not lost until the Committee for Affordable Housing had authorized Albert Wunsch to go into a agreement with 800 and Fair Share Housing, and then they backed out after the meeting at the school, and that's when we lost immunity. Not Russ didn't lose the immunity. The
There was a-
Affordable Housing Committee lost the immunity. And when you talk about cobblestones, the entrance to the school on Charlotte Place near where he lives, that's school property. The town can't go in there and plant cobblestones in the street. And you have to realize also, when cobblestones get wet, they're extremely slippery. And it's very difficult sometimes for cars to stop, and it could cause an accident. Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to be heard? And I think we have some phone connections here also. So if you're on the phone and you want to be heard, just kindly unmute yourself, please, and then just speak. But I don't see any other hands up. Oh,
Mr. Ryan.
I see Mr. Olivo. Sir, go ahead. Just unmute yourself if you can, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Olivo, and I'm on 726 Floyd Street.
I'd like to make a few responses to some of the comments I heard here tonight.
Mute.
First, to Ms. Chang's comments from earlier, I'm not sure I can respond to your statement on its merits, but I wanted to respond to your subtle implication that Emily must lack an understanding of the affordable housing issue because of her age. I also say this in case anybody else on this call shares this sentiment privately. I was an activist at my alma mater, Columbia University, and I spent years fighting to have the university sell its stock in fossil fuel companies responsible for climate change. I can recall vividly what it felt like to be condescended to, even as my fellow activists and I stood across the University Board of Trustees and President to make our demands known on equal footing. And in the end, we won. Look, all of us may pretend to know better because we work in finance and have law degrees, but it's incumbent upon us to listen to the voices of young people, as David said, and never lose sight of the fact that ultimately everything that we do in life is to make sure we can leave a better world for them. So the gentleman who claimed that there's no racism in our town, it was brought to my attention recently that one of our neighbors whose child attends a local school was called a derogatory term by one of their classmates. I understand and respect your position that you witnessed no racism growing up in this town. I simply question how, as a white man, you could possibly make that judgment. And Ms. O'Shea, if I pronounce your name miscorrectly, just let me know. I want to note that Black Lives Matter is an anti-police brutality group. I'd be more than happy to discuss and debate policy with you, to the mayor, the council in regards to this issue at an appropriate time. In addition to whatever misperceptions you may have about this group, I simply ask respectfully that you not reduce a group's position on an important issue like this, police brutality, using ad hominems. Just last week, a 13-year-old autistic boy, who was white, I might add, was shot by Salt Lake City police because he was having a mental health episode. 13 years old. His name was Lyndon Cameron. And to my knowledge, only Black Lives Matter to this day has condemned the shooting. Not All Lives Matter, not Blue Lives Matter, or not any of the police, the pro-police people that I see in this town and who attended the rally. So let's talk about facts here. Let's debate on the merits, but let's not reduce everything to ad hominems, and let's not pretend that some of the issues we're seeing around this country and this town don't exist. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mehta? Can't hear you, sir. Mr. Mehta, you're muted. Thank you.
Okay. I just heard Mr. Oliver talk about BLM and how it relates and how some of the people are white. I'm sure my skin reflects that I'm a brown and I'm not a white guy. And I came to this country as an immigrant, and I have experienced firsthand partially what Mr. Oliver is stating in terms of different phases of life. But that, let's say, touch of racism exists in each and every field and is not restricted to Englewood Cliffs. It exists in everyday's life. It exists in education. It exists in every step of the life, right? But I still believe that after seeing a lot of different places, when I see the diverse background of the people living in this town, which consists of about 45, 50, 52%, it's all different census. I do not believe, I believe that racism is less of an issue in Englewood Cliffs. I heard all these hues and cries about this, and I was thinking about it. In the last 2 years, I have not read one single article or one single headline stating that some Black person was either captured or tortured or killed in Englewood Cliffs, okay? So I do not know as to why BLM chose Englewood Cliffs as a place to protest. And I see Miss Emily smiling and laughing or whatever. If this was really an issue, okay, where was she or other people, and would they speak about basically the racism practiced by the previous police chief officer? And why did the same Democrat members last year give our hard-earned tax money of $660,000 to the previous chief police officer? So Miss Emily, do you know
that your so-called protectors or so-called people who are standing up for your rights, they actually took taxpayers' money, $660,000, and they happily, along with their counsel, gave that a settlement to the previous police officer who had made slur.
Settlement. That was his pension.
Excuse me, let me complete.
No, because you're lying.
Afterwards.
That was his pension.
Let
You're
the
lying.
resident
It was
finish.
not his pension. He was not entitled to a pension.
That was his pension.
Come on.
Meta.
You're the reason we
Sorry,
have
we all know what happened there.
your attorney is there.
You and your values
Right now, Ms. Sabari, just keep please quiet. I
No.
don't need your response right now.
I'll let you lie to Emily Gill.
It is my time. Just
You're
because you're a council member doesn't mean you can barge in. Okay, please.
Watch.
Okay? Do not disturb.
Do not lie to the
He's not
resident.
lying.
I'm not lying. It's a
You are
fact,
lying.
which
He's not
everyone
lying.
is there. By you stating a lie, you actually have people believe that you were innocent when you file your, basically your tax returns. Only 700 people are convicted in a year.
You
But
go ahead, be
So
political.
don't go there. Let me complete my
Go ahead,
topic.
be
Do not
political
disturb.
about Something that happened when I was
You
25
are
years
actually
old.
fooling people
Go ahead and get
by
angry,
sending out your
Meta.
stupid email.
That's right. You
You were
just keep getting
33.
angry.
Please let him
People?
finish.
Keep
Please.
getting
Let me
angry.
complete.
Meta.
It's my
The
time.
resident has the right to speak. You
Go
need
ahead,
to
Meta.
Let me speak.
If you're gonna speak
You
about
do not
me,
have a right to
you
come
better be
in.
telling the
Right
truth.
now, it's public time.
No, well, not if you're lying about me, it's not.
No, I did
Mr.
not lie
Howard,
about you. I
let
was just
the resident
talking
speak.
that you guys gave $660,000 to the
That's
previous
a lie.
police chief
Ms.
officer.
Duffy, mute Ms. Sabari.
That
No.
was his pension.
That was not his pension.
Yes, it
You
was.
guys settled with him, which should have never been settled.
That was his pension.
No, that was not his pension. It is not your money. It's taxpayers' money.
That's not
And
true,
because
Walter.
it is not your money.
You're
And that's why
lying.
we got cited by State Ethics Committee.
You're
Because
lying.
You guys gave them the money because he
You're
did all the
lying.
dirty act for you, okay?
You're lying.
I am not lying. The fact is you gave him $660,000 and we were cited by State Ethics Committee.
The fact is, that was the pension.
Gave away monies which should not have ever been given. Okay?
That's not true, and that has
I'm
nothing-
sorry, Miss Emily, that basically you unwittingly have been used by these people to convert. This is not an affordable housing unit issue. It's actually issue about actually giving developer a right to build thousands of units, okay? This company is going to build 600, 700 apartments or residential units just to give us 100 or 120 units, which that's going to do anyway. 2018, the town, I only moved in 2018, the town had already bought 77 units of land, okay? And basically the same Democrat members, because they got 5 seats as of January 2019, stopped building that, stopped going on down that process. That's why we do not have, and previous 40 years, not a single unit was built by the previous Democratic members, okay? When actually it should have been only 4 or 9 units. And if you really want to follow, and if you really want to understand, I would be happy to meet you, Miss Emily, and Mr. I forget that gentleman's name.
You think you really know
I
what's
forget
going
his name. To really go through this issue, okay? And
Mr.
what
Clerk.
it should really be a fair number be, or what it should be. We can come up with all this number jumbo, which does not make sense and basically should not make sense. Just because a judge has the power, that doesn't mean that we need to build 250 or 130%, okay? More units than even our town population. Basically, we have 1,800 units and we are supposed to build 2,000 or 3,000 units and build 585 units. If you really want to understand, Wyckoff, where basically the judge lives, it's only 102 units. 16,000 people, 5,500 houses. Kevin Walsh, who is basically who used to be the chief litigator enforcing the so-called rights of the poor people. By the way, the poor people, according to the definition, would be people who will be making $70,000 to $80,000. Those will be actually qualified as poor people to participate in this affordable housing in Englewood. Okay. Kevin Walsh, who comes, his town has zero affordable housing units. Joshua Bowers, who writes to the judge on every occasion. I've read some of his. Basically, he writes as to how Englewood Cliffs is not doing this, doing that. But he also lives in a town which has 0 units. So you can get the 2 minutes fame, okay? But let's understand the subject first. Do not get carried away by these giveaways of these Democratic members to their developer friends who probably are donating money to their political parties or whatever. And basically,
Watch yourself, Meta.
they are the ones who keep on talking about settlement when they actually won the election, when they won the election by actually promising the people that they were going to fight this. The issue is not about fighting about affordable housing. The issue is about giveaway to these people. Okay?
Not true.
Thank you. No, that's what it is, Ms. Sabari. You have even no right to even talk to
You are an outright liar. You should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be ashamed of yourself that you did not disclose to the people that you're convicted felon.
You're accusing us of being.
And only 700 people get prosecuted.
Don't worry.
And you lied. Because
Okay,
if it was a
Mr.
mistake,
Mehta,
you would get a
got your point
penalty and
across.
interest.
Very good. Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
thank
Mr.
you.
Mehta. Thank you. Have a good
Mr.
night.
Aversa, why don't you just keep quiet, please?
Why don't you
Thank
keep
you.
quiet?
Why
Look, you know
should
what?
I? It is a
just
public
listened
time.
to you- I
Where
just listened to
you are
you have
even
a
hiding
racist comments.
face.
And
You
you're
are
so
hiding your
ignorant,
face.
you don't even
okay?
know how racist
Because you're
are.
ashamed. You are ashamed. That's why you and others.
It's
Mr.
unbelievable.
Hiding their
What
face.
comes out of your mouth is just sheer ignorance. And it's unbelievable that you continue to
Mr.
speak.
Aversa, I know how ignorant you are. Thank you.
It's remarkable.
It's remarkable. I know, Mr. Aversa. Okay, thank you.
The resident has the right
You
to
have a
speak.
good night, Mr.
Mr.
Mehta. You
Aversa,
keep tight.
don't be ignorant, okay?
You
Don't
take
think just
care,
because
Mr.
you remember
Mehta.
that you have enough
It's
knowledge.
okay.
Okay?
Thank
Do
goodness
not
the
hide
rest of the
behind your
town
this
is
thing.
quite as racist
All
as
of you
yourself
guys
right
are
now.
hiding behind screen.
It's
Okay?
okay. You have a great night, Mr. Mehta. Thank you for joining us this
Really,
evening.
all right, thank you, Mr. Mehta. Mr. Aversa, please stop attacking the resident. I really wish
Mario,
that
I would turn it to you, but you're
Hold
being
on a
very
second.
quiet.
I really would wish that the Democrats on council would turn their cameras on so the
But
public.
I know you wish a lot of things. I wish you'd go away, but you're still here. So some things don't come true when you wish them.
So Ed, I won the last election. I won by a landslide.
Very good. And I know, Mario, you
just-
really
just
live
live
for
with
that.
it,
And
okay?
it's very
You-
good.
So
Thank
all those
goodness
little
I have
things you
more in my
say-
life than that to hang my hat on.
All those little
So
things
good luck
you
with
say
that.
don't bother me, Ed, because
It's
I'm here to
okay,
do the
Mario.
people's work, not your
Mario,
work.
you're the
not
kind
yours.
of guy that in high school, you got yourself locked in a closet all the time. You probably got your head flushed down the toilet, and this is your thing. So please enjoy the time you have, because you made a real jerk out of yourself this past week,
Are you
doing to
finished?
our town what no one else has ever done.
Are you
You made
finished?
us look like a bunch of racists, a bunch of elitists. And
Well, you're the one who refused to condemn
continue
racism.
to
for
get
3
up.
years.
Okay.
You refuse to condemn racism.
Look even worse.
Ed, there's a lot of video
So
where I
please,
asked you to
you
join
don't
me in
even
condemning
understand the
racism.
concept of affordable housing. You don't even understand what racism is.
So,
And the
Ed,
words that come out of your mouth are just mind-boggling.
So let me remind you that.
But you
when-
continue,
when
Mario.
We had the
Please
former
enjoy
police
yourself.
chief listening to somebody making monkey.
It's
sounds
okay,
in the background.
Mario. You
You
keep
were
bringing
okay
that
with
up.
it. You were okay with that. And when I
That's
asked
right,
you to
Mario.
condemn
Whatever you say.
racism with me,
If you get any more
you
political, can we
refused to do
That's
that.
it.
move on?
You refused. So look,
It's okay,
you guys,
Mario.
I know you
Yeah.
blow the way the wind blows, but at the end of the day, everybody sees you all for what you are. Although your camera's not on, we still see you, okay?
Yeah, we see you even better now. You made it clear after what you did last week. You made it clear of the real person you
That's all
are.
been explained. And I
And your
saw-
people
I
that
think we're
have gotten
done. I
up
don't
and
see any more
spoken
hands up.
tonight have really vilified you and showed you for the person you really are deep down inside. And you have wrecked this town, Mario. You have made us look like racists and elitists, and it's despicable.
And the Parisis wrecked this town, and I'm cleaning
It's
it up.
okay, Mario. You
I'm
can place the
ending
blame
your
all you want.
political
Your
machine.
legacy will follow you.
Can we
I am ending
continue?
your political machine. Ms.
That's
Duffy,
the way to
stay
go.
out of
Yeah, you're doing a great job with it.
this.
Miroku
Duffy, stay out of this.
has been,
Mr. Aversa, are you finished? You had a lot of bad things to say about me. The public heard you. You're very unprofessional. All right, who's up next?
Miroku. I have to unmute them. Miroku?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Miroku, could you just state your name and address? And I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
No, that's my telephone's name. Andrew Nicko, 54 Elm Street. I just have first to say the level of cringe that's been going on between some of the residents who are just unbelievably ignorant, and just some of them that are just downright delusional in terms of where we stand with certain things. But I do have a question for Miss Duffy, if she can answer that for me. With regards to the mayor's bill that was sent out, who instigated that? Did you instigate that, advising the mayor that this was an option, or did he come to you to do that?
The mayor came to me.
Did the police chief, to your knowledge, instigate it, saying that we have to bill for these events?
No, he did not. In fact, I was trying to answer Mrs. O'Shea before. Historically, when there is an event in town requiring police presence, it is the police department, it's the officer in charge of the traffic that sends out billing. For example, Grand Fondeau always receives a billing from the police department. Had Emily Gill been advised that she was going to be billed, it would have been up to her to decide if she wanted to proceed or not. I do know for a fact that Emily and the chief did speak, and the chief not once advised her that she would be receiving a bill, because that is not something typically the police do.
So just to clarify, from your perspective, this entire ordeal was instigated by Mayor Kranjak and no one else, to your knowledge?
I would say instigated is a heavy word. He asked me.
Initiated.
Yes. He asked me to obtain.
She just said I asked
Don't
her.
interrupt the resident, Mario. I'm not done yet.
Mr. Nicko, we got a lot to talk about, but
I
just said
Mario,
asked her,
don't
and I
interrupt
did.
the resident.
No, you did. You told me. I just instigate is, I think, a strong word.
All right, initiate.
Yes.
Will correct
The
the words
mayor
that I
asked
used.
that I get the dollar amount that was expended for police for her event.
Were there two drafts of the letter that were sent? Because I know that in a political correspondence that was emailed to people in the town, it showed one email that was written, I believe, by you, and then it was revised by another person. Are you aware of that?
Yes, many of the residents that I know in town told me about it. I told them not to forward it to me. I wanted no part about it, but they did read it to me. And I found it comical that the letter that the mayor sent out to the residents was the letter I drafted as per his instructions. But what he failed to do is provide the letter that he signed and had me send out to Miss Gill. That he didn't include to the residents, and I don't know why.
You guys are very well rehearsed, but there's a couple of which I'll add
So
in.
it would be fair. So it'd be fair to say that the mayor misled the public. As
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Let the
Oh,
resident
absolutely not.
finish, Mario.
Here, let me tell you.
My next question is
you're kind of like rehearsed this, but you didn't rehearse it the right way. So let me back up.
It seems like it's annoying you, Mario. So I guess I'm doing a good job of exposing
No,
the
but you're
truth
just
to the
like you're
people.
spreading that filth that you always do, Nikau. And why
Mario,
don't
did you
why don't
initiate
you
this
just-
or not?
Sir, you're on the
Did you
police
start
and the
this
fire
or not,
department,
Mario?
and
Yes
you're
or no?
tolerating
That's
a
an easy
racist
question.
president.
But you don't want to answer it because
No, here, I'll tell you
again,
what it is. Let me finish.
Did you initiate the question? Did you initiate this? Yes or no?
After
Simple
the
answer, Mario.
event,
Yes or
after
no?
the-
Yes or no? Yes or no?
You finish and then I'll answer.
Yes or no?
You
You
finish.
can't answer that because you're embarrassed by it.
I am
My
not
next
embarrassed.
question is for Mr. Marinello.
No, hold on a second. Let me
Mr.
finish. Let me
Marinello,
answer your
don't
question.
interrupt
So
the resident, Mario. Let the resident finish.
you are.
Let the resident finish.
You're
I'm still
getting very close
talking,
to the
Mario.
edge here, Mr. Nikau. So you go ahead and finish. You
Thank
do your
you.
rehearsed script with Mr. Marinello, and then I'll
Okay.
speak. Okay, go ahead.
And I'll make sure not to listen because the words that come out of your mouth are irrelevant to me. Mr.
Of course they
Marinello,
are, because
with
you don't
regards
want to know
to
the truth.
affordable, Mr. Marinello, with regards to affordable housing, you know, I've heard residents say about settlement negotiations. Why aren't they made aware of anything? Are settlement negotiations private or public?
Private.
Okay, so legally, you cannot say anything regarding settlement negotiations other than to members of the council and whoever is deemed appropriate for that confidential information, correct?
As a general rule, the answer to that is yes, which is complicated for public entities because the public, you know, has a right to know certain things, but settlement negotiations are confidential.
Okay,
How
so
about the mayor, Mr. Marinello? Does the mayor get to know also?
at
The
any
mayor
point,
knows all about them.
Yeah,
at any
Marinello, you
point-
don't tell me anything.
My name is Joe, or borough attorney. I don't go by last names.
Okay, thank you, Marinello.
Mr. Marinello, just one last question regarding this. So at any point during this, would it be appropriate or inappropriate for members of the council, as well as the mayor and whoever else, to discuss these settlement negotiations in terms of it affecting how the town ends up with this?
I mean, there will be an appropriate time, just like there was last July. If settlement negotiations get to a certain point where there needs to be a public discussion, just like what happened last July, there would be one. But, you know, even in that case, there had to be buy-in from the other parties to the settlement in order for the settlement, certain parts of the settlement discussion to be made public.
Now, I know that you're not our affordable, you know, you're not directly involved. That's not your expertise with affordable housing. But to your knowledge, how many towns have successfully fought affordable housing requirements rather than settle? I mean, what's the batting record? What's the wins and losses on that, to your knowledge?
0 wins.
Zero wins.
Zero wins.
So just so I'm clear, what we're proposing to do is go up against, for lack of a better term, a windmill, because we're Don Quixote, you know, that we have absolutely no chance whatsoever in the People's Republic of New Jersey. You know, that may make Mario smile, because I agree with him that we live in a socialist state. But unfortunately, short of a radical change in how the population votes, that's not going to change. So we have to live by the laws that we have.
Stay tuned.
But short of a massive political revolution in the state of New Jersey, which probably won't happen anytime soon, that zero win that any town that attempts to challenge it, that's probably going to stay in place. Would that be a fair assumption?
Well, I mean, every town's facts stand on their own issues. But if I was representing the town on affordable housing and I knew that the batting record was 0-0-0 for towns that fought it, it would make me hesitant to recommend continuing the fight, especially at the large cost.
And the towns that did, and the towns that did lose it, they really got their rear ends handed to them, didn't they, as opposed to settling? Based on my brief recollection of, you know, of how things go with these things.
I can't speak to that really. I would say though that generally speaking, I don't think anyone has been hit harder than Englewood Cliffs did. Remember, this case has already been tried on the number, and the borough was hit very hard.
So, you know, and I thank you for answering this. So my takeaway from this is that, you know, we are, as much as I'd love to say, let's fight, 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 we're going to get slammed by this. There is, in my personal opinion, there's no way in which any challenge that we mount to this will make it through any of the other levels of the judiciary system of the state of New Jersey. You know, and in the end, we'll just have massive, massive, massive legal bills and nothing to show for it. And just as a further point, you know, Mr. DiGregorio said it before, you know, up until the planning board, which was led by Russ Perino, up until his denial of the commercial application, the mistaken, idiotic denial that his board did, you know, the affordable housing requirement in this town was 9 units. 9 units, and the reason for that was because we didn't have the developable space to put those units in. So based on the actions of the planning board, we went from 9 units to now hundreds of units. I just want to let that sink into all the residents who are out there with their pitchforks and torches demanding that we fight this, because that's where we've gone with it. We went from 9 units to hundreds of units, and this was all instigated under Mario's watch. Can't blame Parisi for that. 9 units, yeah, that's unfortunate, but at the same time, we let this happen. That's all I have to say. Mario, you can go into your diatribe now. Have a good night.
Spoken like a true political activist. So
speaking like somebody who knows what they're talking about, Mario.
You're done. You have no clue.
Yeah.
So look, on the police billing for overtime, it was my understanding that in connection with the organization of the event, the protest, that the chief went over everything with the organizer, just as he always did, just as the police department always does with all events that we have, charity events, 5K runs, bike events, street fairs, community night out. You have the organization, people understand what's coming. I asked and the police department did a great job organizing it, as I said earlier, even though it's an anti-police organization or anti-police brutality organization, as I'm now hearing, whatever it is. So basically after the event, I asked the administrator, who happens to be our clerk, who's hijacked this meeting from me tonight. I asked her, I said, well, what happens next? And she said, well, you know, nothing. And I said, well, you know, what's the expense? And she told me she'd find out. She did. I said, well, what do we usually do? She said, we bill the organizer of the event. And that was that, you know. And then I followed up with her. I said, can you provide me with a draft of the bill, which is the bill that I sent out, the letter.
How would you live with yourself with that lie? How do you live with yourself?
Let me finish. You can say whatever you want,
No,
but I didn't interrupt
I've said
you.
enough.
You did actually, and you did enough, and you've set me
No,
up many
you
times.
did it.
4.5 years, and I keep getting set up from you. You know, it's unbelievable.
Really, Mayor?
It's unbelievable.
Set up?
So then here's the thing, right? She provided a
unbelievable.
draft. She never said anything that it was unacceptable not to do it. I did it, and then I found out later it was the wrong thing to do.
Okay.
And I apologize for it. I rescinded it. So Mr. Nikow can lather himself up as much as he wants and go wherever he wants with this. But, you know, he's about, it's got as much credibility as former police chief Chaffee, who's actually, and this, everybody should note this, he is the president of your volunteer fire department right now. And that's what is being condoned by Mr. Nikow, and some other people. So that's
Mayor,
not
he's not the
acceptable either.
president of the fire department. He's the president of the association. Chief Howard Mann is
right.
the chief of the fire
That's
department.
what I said. The
No,
former
you didn't say
police chief-
association.
The former police chief is the president of the Volunteer Fire Department
That has to
Association.
do with you
There's a
sending out
difference.
a bill.
So look, you know, there is a double standard, and Nikow will never admit it, but
You should know better.
he basically blows with the wind. The other thing is, look, I think there's been some acknowledgement by Marinello here that we should be appealing, or at least we're not similarly situated, and we've been dealt with unconscionably by this court. I just need to get the Democrats on council to understand that just because 300 towns settle, they got screwed just as much as you're going to get screwed if you settle, okay? the fact that you settle doesn't mean that you're not going to get screwed in this affordable housing scheme. They just keep coming back for more. So look, I'm happy to satisfy our obligation. That's fair. And I'm happy to satisfy it with 100% affordable housing. I oppose any residential building on 800 Sylvan. And I oppose any kind of settlement with Normandy because they defrauded us essentially. And the Democrats on your council are basically lapdogs at this point. All right. Anybody else want to speak? Because we have to get on with our meeting. Have a motion to close.
Motion to close. So moved.
No, there's another person that he's had his hand raised, Peter
I'm sorry.
Mikolas.
Peter Mikolas. go
And
ahead.
Mrs. Geiger.
Mr. Mikolas, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I'm asking him to unmute.
Yeah,
Mr.
this
Mikolas?
is Peter. Yeah, I think everything that needed to be said has been said. Everybody's made their own opinions. Everybody has their own biases. I'll let Ms. Geiger speak.
Thank you. Ms. Geiger, I'll unmute you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You hear me? Okay. I want to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and the misinformation about it. The rally that was set up by Ms. Gill and the rally that was organized by the NAACP had included as part of its concern Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is not anti-police. That is a fallacy. Black Lives Matter is anti-police brutality. Ryan said it very clearly. Black Lives Matter, if you look at their goals, is about racial injustice in this country. It is about economic injustice that targets people of color. It is about criminal justice reform. It is about recognizing people irrespective of the color of their skin and to treating all people fairly under the law. That's what it is. It is not anti-police. And I want to compliment our police department, who was excellent in setting up the policing for the two rallies. And I attended the second one. And their concern was not only about the Black Lives Matter people, which you disparage, Mayor, and which you, Miss O'Shea, disparage because you don't understand them. And I will not tolerate people who speak political platitudes.
I disagree with you, but go ahead.
And don't, of course you disagree with me, and who don't understand the basic goals of the organization that they are besmirching. That's one. Two, you are consistently misinforming the public about the Chiaffi settlement. There was no Chiaffi settlement. Police Chief Chiaffi left public service, and he left getting paid out in accordance with the terms to the dollar of his contract. And you can shake your head all you want, but that is reality. And the details of, quote, the settlement, which was not a settlement, it was a normal standard payout that is due our police officers and the police chief by contract.
And you forfeited a lot of that.
And you could look at any police officer, and there were several of them who left during this period and after, who retired.
You know what? You were fine not condoning his racism. You were fine condoning his racism, weren't you?
Excuse me.
Years ago. That was a Karen Geiger.
Or not you. And don't you interrupt me.
You were okay with his racism 2 years ago.
Stop
interrupting.
Don't interrupt me.
It's a sore subject for you, but you're on video.
In my mouth. You have to be quiet now because I have the floor. And as far as affordable housing, I have gone to court. I've attended more than 80% of the court sessions on affordable housing. I was there when Mr. Mehta was turned down for his intervention, his motion to intervene by the court. And I was there when he left and didn't even stay to hear the commencement of this very critical trial. I have read all the documents, and I was in court when I learned for the first time in 2018, in December of 2018, that the borough had submitted documents to the court. Imagine my surprise. I attend virtually every mayor and council meeting, and I had never heard that a plan was being discussed. I had to wait until I read it on the court website that the borough had submitted this. Unbeknownst to the residents, it wasn't even discussed in public. And this 77 unit plan, which was then discussed in January after it had been submitted to the court, understand the timing of this, when it was a fait accompli as the borough's plan, that's when the Democrats and the Republicans changed the powers. And the Democrats, I assume, decided to look into that plan to decide if there was another alternative. I think that's a very reasonable way to proceed. The court statements in January of 2020, of 2020, when Judge Farrington ruled that we were constitutionally non-compliant and said that she took away our builder's remedy, or took away our immunity. She listed 8 reasons, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 8 specific reasons why she was taking away our immunity. She also very clearly stated that the 77 unit plan presented by the mayor and council to the court was constitutionally non-compliant, did not meet our affordable housing needs, and that she found it ironic that the number that the borough had calculated as its affordable housing obligation coincidentally coincided to the unit with the 77 unit plan the mayor had come up with. There was, read what she wrote. It really gives you a blueprint for all the decisions that followed. Now, I don't agree with the egregious numbers that she has imposed on this community, but I do believe that there should be building on 800 Sylvan, because the one thing that the mayor has not presented to anyone in this community is the cost to the borough of building all the affordable housing. And he has not presented the cost of having, or the tax revenues that will come into this borough if such building is done by 800 Sylvan instead of the borough. The residents who want to know what would happen, when would we regain immunity? We regain immunity when we settle. That's when we regain immunity. It's very simple. And a settlement, as someone earlier said, in private, settlement negotiation, always. I have a history of government employment and service. I have spent my entire professional career in government, far more years than anyone sitting on this council. And I can tell you that I have never, ever seen a negotiation conducted in public. The results of negotiations are told to the public. And the public can decide at election time whether they seek to approve that by how they vote for the people who are up for election and how they voted. That's what the government process is about. The people who were elected make decisions. They are there to make decisions. And if you don't like the decisions that they make, you vote them out of office. It's a very simple democratic process. Thank you.
So the takeaway is that you won't support a 77 unit plan, but you will support a 500 unit plan.
Don't put a takeaway in my mouth. I said what I had to say.
Yeah, well, that's what you're saying.
That was not what I said.
That's basically what you said. Okay.
No,
I don't see any other hands. Can I have a motion to close?
Mayor, how about the, okay.
A second? Have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, it's, anybody opposed? All in favor of closing public portion? I can't hear anyone.
Aye.
Gloria, are you there?
Aye. Aye.
Gloria, I don't see you lighting up here, one way or the other. Gloria, are you there? All right, I think we have enough to close the public portion. Let's go to the next item on the agenda. We have about 3 more hours of work, people. So we're going to break our rule where I don't want to end the meeting in a different day than it starts. So next on the agenda is payment of claims resolution 134, August 13th, 2020 through September 9th, 2020. This is for $5,147,362.49. I object to any payments going to Serenian, Wunsch, or Troutner. Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
You have a roll call?
Councilperson Sparrow,
No to the the lawyers, Serenian, Wunsch, and yes to everything else.
Sabari,
Yes.
O,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Aversa. Councilman Aversa? He was just here.
Yes, he was.
Looks like he's muted.
He's run out of insults, so he's probably looking at his like little dictionary.
Oh, stop it.
Oh.
You
Ed,
keep muting me, man. And Mario, don't worry. I got a whole bag full for you. Don't worry about it.
Ed, did you figure out how to unmute yourself yet? It's only been 10 meetings.
Councilman Aversa, we're voting on the claim list.
Said yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Councilman Wu?
Councilman Wu?
No to all affordable housing legal fees, yes to everything else.
Okay, next on the agenda is Resolution 135, appointment of municipal representative to the Bergen County Community Development Regional Committee. The council appoints 1 and 1 alternate, and the mayor appoints 1 and 1 alternate. Who are the council appointments?
We just need one of each, Mayor. The council appointed David DiGregorio. I emailed you for a name.
Okay, and I'll mention the name now. Since you have Di Gregorio, I'll put a capitalist in, Mark Park.
Okay, thank you.
130, oh, let's have a vote. Do we have to-
Yes, we
Yeah,
need a
let's have
motion,
vote.
please.
So moved.
Second.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
O,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
Wu. Council, I did not mute you.
Yes.
You're muting yourself.
Yes.
Okay, so
Thank
that's
you.
probably the first unanimous vote in a long time. Resolution 136. And thank you, Mark Park and David DiGregorio for serving on that committee. Resolution 136, approved traffic signal agreement for 9W between LG and Parkway Toyota.
So moved.
So, second.
Roll call, please.
So Sabari. Councilpersons Pharaoh,
Yes.
Sabari. Councilwoman Sabari,
Yes.
O,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Thank you.
137, authorize indemnification and hold harmless agreement for 11 Roslyn Avenue. When these things appear, when addresses appear on the agenda, the clerk has in the past been instructed to put the name of the ultimate beneficial owner and the company there as well. It's missing here. Can you add that right now?
This isn't a tax appeal. The information is in the agreement.
It's still a reference to an address. I know it's not a tax appeal.
I don't have, you have the file, Mayor. You took it off the dais.
11 Roslyn Avenue is LL Roslyn Ave LLC, and its principal who's signing is Fei Wang, F-E-I-W-A-N-G.
I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
I don't know much about this. I never gave any information, so I'm going to abstain.
with all due respect, Councilman Pharaoh, I sent the resolution and the agreement last week for review. It was drafted by Mr. Marinello at the request of the building department.
Oh, I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
Notice.
Sabari?
Yes.
O?
Yes.
Sung?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor, if you could please sign the agreement.
Resolution 138. This is a big mistake, but it's a resolution authorizing a not to exceed NTE, not to exceed for Jeffrey, not to exceed amount for Jeffrey R. Serenian Esquire with respect to affordable housing matters. I would object to this. If anything, we should be getting a refund from Mr. Serenian.
So moved.
Second.
Was that Mr. Aversa?
Yes.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
No.
Sabari,
Yes.
O. Councilwoman O,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
Wu.
No.
Thank you.
139, another mistake. Resolution authorizing not to exceed amount. The word amount needs to appear in these. For Albert H. Wunsch Esquire, with respect to affordable housing matters, I oppose this as well and object
So
to it.
moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
No.
Sabari,
Yes.
O,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
Wu.
No.
Thank you.
Resolution 140, this is to appoint volunteer firefighter Mika Tang. I'm not sure if I'm saying the first name correctly. So this is something I definitely support, and I thank him for volunteering to be in our fire department.
So
The
moved.
young man was on here before. Unfortunately, he's signed off. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes, and it's nice to see that we have some volunteers. I know it's very hard to get that in town.
O,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to also thank the fire department. I know they're busy because I hear their siren all the time. I know they've been super responsive to all the needs of the town, and I thank them. And I think Howard Mann doing a great job as well. So
Yes, he is.
So thank you to them. And next on the agenda is ordinance 17-06. This is the first reading. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2-13.16, entitled, quote, fees in regard to traffic control, close quote, comma, of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey. So this is the corrective amendments. Motion?
Are we introducing this by title?
This is by title only, correct. The public reading is in October. I need a motion?
I'm really not sure I understand why this is being amended. I thought it was pretty clear that we don't charge for protest if it's against someone's constitutional rights. I don't understand why we need this clarified.
With Mr. Marinello.
I make the motion.
He's muted, okay.
The ordinance you currently have does not make it clear, which is why we're putting this in here.
Well, when I read the ordinance, the last chapter of the ordinance said that if it was against constitutional rights, that it doesn't apply. So why do we need more clarification than that is what I don't understand. But listen, if this will make it easier for everybody to understand, I'm not against it, but I just don't necessarily believe it's necessary.
Well, let me say this. I don't know what section of the ordinance you're referring to, so you'll have to point that out to me. However, the section that the fees were assessed under does not have an exception.
Okay.
Need a motion, please?
I did.
Second.
Councilpersons Pharaoh,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
O,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Thank you.
Committee, council member reports. Just state your committee and give us your report in the order that you.
Oh, yeah.
So Councilman Farrow, do you want to state any?
No report. I don't.
Nothing, okay.
No.
Councilwoman Sabari,
I don't have anything at this time.
Councilman Song,
Nothing to report, but just want to thank the guys at DPW for their outstanding work.
Councilwoman No.
No report.
Sorry to keep you awake. Councilman Aversa.
So recreation, we're trying to do something with soccer, even if not very competitive perhaps, but at least some training or some clinics, something to keep the kids busy, but socially safe and distanced, I suppose. So we're working on that, and get yoga. We're going to do that too, because that's easy to keep apart. As far as police go, congratulations to all the officers who were promoted. And we're trying to wind up the PBA contract. Hopefully by next meeting, we'll be able to wrap that up and have all the information for council people, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And that's it.
Mr. Aversa, will we be keeping the 5K going this year?
Bill, you've always done a good job with that. So, I mean, if you could figure out a way to do that and keep people apart, I'll support that. No problem.
You know, William, what we could consider doing is like a staggered start with, so it's all socially distanced. There's no, like everybody goes off 2 minutes apart.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's.
I'm sure there's a way you could figure it out. You know,
That's what
because
some people are doing. Yeah, they're like maybe it's starting like 3 at a time. It's staying apart, that kind of thing. It's hard to clock. Yeah, it's just hard to. It's kind of like a time trial format, so it's hard to keep a clock on each person. So I'm not sure how that works, but maybe just do some math at the end.
Yeah. Not my forte.
So soccer is not getting launched yet.
Well, Lizette, you want to speak towards that a little bit? Because I think you spoke to Mr. Kim. I did as well, but he's working on a program to see what he could come up with to keep kids active, involved, but separate. It's a trick.
Correct. So what he had suggested is allow school to start and then start up soccer Saturday, September 19th, more relaxed, more of a training, have fun, not have structured games.
Okay, see if you could get that going. You know, people are looking forward to having something.
Yep, I have no problem with that.
I agree.
I mean, I don't mind doing all this. We don't have a recreation director. I've been doing rec, or what we have left of rec, because of COVID, and I don't mind jumping in and helping Mayor.
That's because you fired him, but that's a beside.
I fired him. Okay.
So
Councilman Wu didn't want him last year either, but he wouldn't do anything.
no, this isn't about Councilman Wu.
No,
Why
okay.
are we doing this?
So, Councilman Wu, did you have a report?
I'm sorry?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to take the opportunity and provide an update with the phone system. I do need to go out to bid. I am researching perhaps doing the upgrades via state contract, but if I can't find what we need, I need permission from the governing body to go out to bid. The quote I received was for about $30,000. May I have approval?
To what? 30,000 or to go out to bid?
To go out to bid, because it's over the threshold that I could purchase. I'm allowed 17.5.
Can we just have a discussion on this? William had mentioned some ideas to me. William, did you want to talk about those ideas?
Yeah, I mean, there's companies like Ring Central that have very cost-effective solutions. I don't know, being a borough and government, whether or not we have any security-related issues, but obviously most companies in the private sector are moving towards internet phone systems, and you could always back that up with one copper line, which would save us tons and tons of money. $30,000 sounds like an incredible amount of money in today's world of IP phones.
Well, this is voice over internet. And it's for the Cisco licenses. So
Right,
it
I mean,
maintains all our phones, 911, the police phones, the servers.
Would we?
I'm open to suggestion, but I would like permission if we need to go out to bid. At least I have your approval and don't have to wait for another meeting.
I don't see a problem with going out to bid, but I think that we just need to know what exactly we're going out to bid for.
Oh, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
not there yet, Councilwoman. I just want to be ready in case we did have to go that way. It's very difficult to get a hold of someone at the state. And I was trying to look at all the Cisco licensing and find a vendor.
That's fine, but can you look into like Ring Central as well?
Yeah, Councilman Wu, would you send me information on that?
Sure.
I mean, is that suitable for government phones?
Yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar public company.
Sure, if you could send me that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so I have everyone's permission to go out to bid if necessary. For example, if we chose a company like Ring Central, that's going to be over more than $17,000. I would have to go out to bid.
I would think if you're talking about a phone system that encompasses the whole borough, fire department.
Yes, it does.
I think you're probably going to be looking at more than $17,000 either way.
Okay.
So
Everyone's on board?
I'm always on board for sending things out to bid. I don't think we should just go with one supplier. We should-
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you. Just so you know, it's not the equipment, not purchasing new equipment, it's the licensing.
Can you email us, Lizette, what the kind of like spec on what you would be sending anybody on out to bid on what they're
Yeah,
bidding on?
of course.
Yeah, if you could do that after the meeting, that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda is old and new business. I mentioned previously, and I'll mention it again, 9/11 memorial ceremony. It's on Friday at 8:30 a.m. at the firehouse. Recreation programs. Is there anything else to add on that?
No,
No, no, not right now.
but Councilman, I'm sorry. The yoga would be at the community building. I am going to speak to the instructor to see if she feels comfortable. Maybe something else we could offer is yoga at the park.
I've seen people doing it at the park. I think that's probably a better option.
Okay, I'll check with the instructor.
I've seen that. Is that our instructor who is in the park?
I don't think so. I think it's somebody else.
Yeah, I think outdoors is fine for now, but you know, depending upon the weather.
Right,
That's
correct.
going to start to change.
Does
Yes.
that group that's doing yoga out there, do they apply for any permits? It seems like a regular
I don't
type
even
of
know who
class
they are,
that's going on.
Councilman.
Yeah,
I
they're
do
out there.
it
They're out there every weekend. I don't
do
know,
it with
like,
a group of people, you know, moms from town, but I could be mistaken. That's what I thought it was.
No, I don't think so. There's guys there as well.
If
You know,
somebody sees them and wants to get me their name and number, I'll gladly call them, but I know nothing about it. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
All right, they've been there for a couple months.
There are some towns that are requiring permits, especially in cases where the yoga, or let's say it's a soccer training or something like that, is a fee-based service, mostly just to make sure that the borough is covered in the event of an injury or something like that, make sure that there's some kind of insurance in place to protect the borough.
Okay, well, if that's a borough event, right? Or if it's a private event.
I'm talking about like if a soccer trainer brought 5 or 6 kids down there because his indoor soccer place is closed, you know, they're having him come get a permit and show insurance so that the borough doesn't get sued in case somebody gets hurt using property.
So I mentioned previously the NAACP president and myself speaking and communicating, extended an invitation to Secretary Ben Carson to visit us. Since at the federal level, affordable housing is getting a lot of attention these days as well. And again, the ECPD promotion ceremony took place on August 28th. Does anybody have anything to add to the old or new business?
Well, I have a question that I would like to ask Lisette.
Yes.
I sent you some, asking you for some emails, almost like a week and a half.
A week ago, correct.
Yeah, a little bit over a week. And I was hoping that by Friday I would get an answer, at least letting me know by when I will get it, if you haven't been able to locate the emails. But
I'm waiting for the IT to assist me with obtaining some of the information.
Okay, do you have any idea by when? Would it
No.
be? No idea?
No.
So this could take a while, or, I mean,
Councilman, why don't you call me tomorrow and I'll discuss it with you.
okay.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Is it a-
Aye.
All right. All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Nope. Good night,
Okay. Thank you,
Good
everybody. Good night. Thank you to the public for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next month. Take care.